2+2 is proud to bring you the 2+2 Pokercast, presented by the Pokerstars VIP Club.
This week on the Pokercast, Neil Channing and a TCOOP preview with Pokerstars Brian. Now here they are. They had deflated balls long before that was cool. Adam and Terrence.
Welcome everybody to the 2+2 Pokercast presented by the Pokerstars VIP Club. I am your host, A. Schwartz, joined as always by the roving Terrence Chan from this time from Melbourne, Australia again. He's set up shop there for the Aussie Millions. Terrence, welcome back to the show, sir.
G'day, mate. How you going?
Dingo ate my baby. All good.
Yeah.
All good up here. It's 2 degrees and raining. I'm sure
Jesus.
it's freezing.
That's
cold
not
out.
a lot. That's not enough degrees.
No.
See, over in Melbourne, we have like 24 of those degrees that you have. That's a lot more than you guys have.
You have extra degrees. We could use some of
Yes.
those for sure. Ross,
If this were a football game, we'd be winning 24-2.
That's right.
That's a lot.
The joke off the top was the deflated balls, of course. That we do. Well, I'm 47 now, so that's kind of what happens when you get older. You're getting there, T. You'll get there for sure.
Well, the balls, I don't have to like reinflate them on my own quite yet, but I'm sure that day will come. The Europeans, by the way, are probably so confused what we're talking about. I mean, I'm not even a football fan, but I follow enough people on Twitter that I know about deflated balls.
And indeed, what happened with the reference, of course, is from the hand egg playoffs from this weekend. The New England Patriots were cheating again. They seem to do a lot of that. They underinflated the footballs, and that seems to be a pretty big deal. People are talking about them being disqualified, which kind of makes you laugh. But yeah, Belichick
I think that would be the coolest thing ever. Like, did it? I don't know. I don't follow this stuff enough to know. But did they actually? Is there provision for them to disqualify? Like, were they definitely caught doing this? This definitely was a thing. It wasn't just a rumor.
It definitely was a thing. Yeah, they were caught. There's no, they're not. I think what happens, or there might happen, is Belichick, the coach, might. I think the worst thing that can happen, and don't quote me on this, but I think it's something like he can be suspended from the field for the Super Bowl, etc. Maybe.
I feel like that's really like an adjustment. I mean, like, what's the value of having your coach on the sideline? Like, it can't be nearly as much as, like, if you were a team that really got a lot of value about deflating the balls because you're not as good at passing as the other team or whatever. Like, I feel like that almost such a lack of a steep penalty almost incents cheating in some way. Like, what's the worst thing that you could get away with? This is like, I mean, it's like almost it feels like the football equivalent of, like, having marked cards or something like that, right? Like,
I don't think it's that bad.
Okay.
Just anecdotally, I played some football in high school, etc. I don't think having a couple of PSI underneath what the minimum is going to make that big of a
right,
difference.
it's just as malicious, right? Like, it's definitely
sure.
it's like something that happens accidentally. So it's like you're manipulating this thing in some way. It's not like it's not like something that, like, it's a minor violation of thing. Like, you're messing with the thing that's supposed to be like an impartial part of the game. But I mean, what do I know about football?
Teams, they'll do stuff like that. If a team is really good, if they're playing, there's a team at home and they're playing a really good running team, they'll grow the grass longer or make the field sloppier in the other direction, whatever. I mean, there's all kinds of this manipulation that goes on. So I don't know. I mean, it seems much ado about nothing
Angle
to me.
shooters.
Yes, indeed. I want to get back to football later because before we get too far in our silly banter section that we always do off the top in the first segment, but I want to get to a buddy of ours who is in studio. He dropped by. Mr. Scott Wilson is here. He just back from the PCA. Scotty, welcome back to the show.
Well, thank you very much.
You are back from the PCA. You were down there with our boy here, Kelly Becker here, who owns this fine studio that we're recording in. You guys went down for the tournament, had a bunch of fun. Give us a kind of a quick rundown of what happened. I saw you were with swimming pigs. What's that all about?
That's the thing that drives that's crazy for me, with the pigs in the water and the talk about that.
Well, the pigs in the water, I wasn't expecting that. No, but I got down a couple days earlier this year, and I always enjoy going down there this time of year, and I actually booked the trip and the flights a long time ago, assuming it would be the weekend after after the New Year, of course. But it's always sort of in there, and there's a high roller in there first. You never know when it's going to start. So I had a couple days earlier to sort of kick around.
Nobody there? Or
Nobody there. You're on your own. Actually, when I first got there, I walked in to register and whatnot, and
Stars was set up?
No, nobody was there.
Nobody
there was a few people from the Isle of Man and a couple of cutouts of the pro stars, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But nothing to speak of quite yet. So I said, okay, well, I've got a couple days here, and a friend of mine's got a boat down there. He lives down there, so he said, hey, we're going to go out and explore the Exumas. You want to go?
So the Exumas are the islands just off the main island.
Yeah, it's about 30 miles out. So if you've got a decent boat, if you're going to sail, it's going to take you a long time.
Yeah.
But if you've got sort of a Miami Vice style boat, to use a 30-year-old reference, you can jet out there pretty quickly.
Nice. So you got out there, and is there like a store, a restaurant? I mean, or is it just completely devoid of civilization? I mean, like, what is it like out there? I'm imagining
you get rum cake?
Deserted island. Can you get rum cake?
Yeah, it's a chain of islands. I think there's hundreds of them, but you're getting pretty liberal with the definition of an island if you're going to say there's 600, because some of them are moving sandbars. But
so there's no stores then.
There's not a lot of stores. You wouldn't get a lot of business. Hey fellas, pull on over.
Yeah.
Can I get you something?
Right.
Iced tea.
Yeah.
Yeah. You wouldn't do high trade out there.
No.
But lots out there and lots of very different places. There's this one island, as Terrence was saying, called Big Major, which for some reason has a bunch of wild boars on it.
Yeah.
And I actually took a picture of, and not many people are going to have this photo. It's a manta ray or a stingray with a pig beside it, both inhabiting the same 6 by 6 foot area.
This is not a zoo.
Right.
This is not an exhibit.
Yeah.
This is just a thing that happens.
This is just a thing that happens.
And these pigs swim around.
They swim around. Basically, people come out and they'll throw lettuce off the boat or things like that, and they'll swim out. These things will go 100 yards out into the water.
Well, I was going to ask, are wild boars dangerous? Aren't they dangerous? Like, won't they attack?
I mean, more importantly, aren't they tasty?
Well, I'm sure they're tasty,
certainly they
for
are.
sure. But the former part, you know what people are like.
They might think the same about you, Adam, by the way.
That's true.
People are silly about that stuff. They'll just get in there and do whatever with a natural, existing feral animal. I won't do that, so I stayed my distance. But they could be, I suppose. But no, there was no pig episodes in the danger.
Good fun.
Arena.
You got back to PCA. Kelly, I imagine, joined you then, and the tournament starts. Give us a rundown of your experience with the tournament. Do you have a lot of fun? Do you play the main event?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I guess I've been down there probably about 8 of the last 9 years. And, January in Vancouver, as you know, is not the nicest time of year to be here. Of course, if you're a skier, people tout that, but I'm not.
Yes.
Certainly not a good one, and not one that enjoys the weather, in lieu of that. But
It wasn't a good year for that.
no. I mean, you can see there's nothing up there.
No snow, yeah.
But, so played the main event, started day 1B, and the structure's always really nice at these events because instead of going in and, obviously all poker players start events at noon. No one starts at 9 a.m. sharp or any of that nonsense. But they do a good job of just saying, okay, the first day is 6 levels, 8 levels of an hour each, no dinner break. So you're basically done, taking the 15 minutes or whatever, 9-ish.
Yeah.
And
Time for dinner.
Yeah, time for dinner. And of course, you're on the East Coast, so if there's football games and whatnot, they're still going.
There's a huge sports book that's a lot of fun to sit in. Yeah.
Absolutely. That was very expensive. In fact, I think it was a good 1.5 times more expensive than the tournament itself.
Can I just say, if Scott Wilson refers to something as expensive, it's probably really expensive.
Yes, indeed.
God.
Yes. But the other thing there, of course, is dining. You've got no booze, some great food to have some good meals.
Dining is big, and it's I've got sort of a repertoire down there of places to go.
What's your approach? I mean, there's got to be a way to do this.
You got to play it out. You got to look at the week and say, all right, Monday is sushi day, but Vancouver we got a lot of sushi, so you can move that forward. There's a Mesa Grill, Bobby Fillets, which they have in the Caesars Forum in Las Vegas as well, and other places. Right. But this one is more. It's definitely got a more Caribbean flair. So they have grouper and mahi-mahi and all these different types of local stuff. And Bobby Play puts his signature Southwestern spin on it.
Yeah.
I don't know why. He's from New York, but
that's his thing.
That's his thing.
Yeah. So you did that. Had some good meals. Some late night gambling with Mr. Becker. Were you guys in the pit throwing the dice?
Yeah, no dice this year.
No
dice. No, because there was so much football going on. It was a heck of a lot of football betting. A lot of sports book.
Yeah.
The odd hand of blackjack or something, but it just not even worth talking about. It was mostly a sports wagering and poker.
Yeah. And drinking.
So I wanted to interrupt on this point because I was sort of looking at the PCA thread this week, and our old buddy Chainsaw Kessler was pointing out that the comps are actually reasonably generous at Atlantis, which is surprising because nothing is. So like if you actually do play a little bit of pit and give them a little bit of action, you can get some pretty good reduced room rates. That was my interpretation of what Alan was posting on 2+2. So I was going to ask Scott about that because I know he likes to be in the pit once in a while, and maybe have you ever gotten any offers from action that you've gotten before, or do you have a player's card there or anything like that?
I do, and they actually call me about once every 3 months. And a couple of years we were going crazy on the blackjack tables one night, and they took notice. Yeah. So I get a call probably every 3 months from someone in Florida who does their sort of that's where they operate it out of. And they'll offer you certain room deals and all this jazz. So
they'll offer you the Cove for only $600 a night.
Exactly. In fact, they never even offer you the Cove, which is the deal breaker because
that's where you want to stay.
You want to be there, the reef near that Starbucks, just away from it all.
The Cove is nice.
Oh, it's
I
great.
was lucky enough to stay there on PokerStars' dime last time we were down there, and I got spoiled a little bit there, but good fun. Great, yeah. Thanks for the PCA report. Hopefully we can make it down next year. We were thinking about this year. We didn't quite make it, but appreciate the report, sir.
Oh, anytime. Yeah, if you want to know dining tips down there, I've got that.
You're the guy. Follow you on. What's your Twitter handle?
Scott Wilson 64.
At Scott Wilson 64. Follow him if you want to get some dining advice.
It'll actually be losing sports betting advice. So if you wanted to
just bet the opposite,
you're going to do well.
All right, thanks,
Scott is famous because in Vancouver he really only eats at one place. So how much dining advice can you get a guy who eats at Gotham Steakhouse literally 5 nights a week?
We were lucky that Gotham was closed tonight. He decided to drop in. Yeah. All right, thanks, Scotty. Appreciate it.
Anytime, guys.
That was Mr. Scott Wilson. Hopefully he comes back in and co-host one week that you take off, T, or I take off. Maybe you and Scotty can do a show, but always fun to have him on the program.
Yeah, he's one of a kind. He's truly one of my favorite people to hang out with in the city of Vancouver.
Happiest guy you'll ever meet. Fantastic.
Yeah, he lives a great lifestyle too.
Doesn't he? Indeed. So let's get to some stuff before we get all into the poker things. I wanted to quickly, just cry on my pillow here a little bit. Last week after the show,
you mentioned on the forum, you got caught by the man doing a little bit of speeding on your way home. Now we've mentioned this on the show before, but Adam's got a pretty decent trek out to the suburbs from the studios in Vancouver.
It's an hour, and it's an hour drive, and I was in a bit of a hurry because it was super late last week, and 2 a.m. Who's going to? I just didn't think there was going to be any problem, and I've got this new truck that I bought, and it cruises along pretty good. I don't even realize how
how's
fast
the fuel pump in that thing?
Fuel pump is fantastic. I've already run it down. I've already run it every time down to absolutely empty. I'm trying to find empty. You know how you kind of go lower and lower and lower to find the bottom. I haven't found the bottom yet, but I have to be getting close. Anyway, I got pulled over, got a speeding ticket, and it's so tilting because the first thing the guy says to me is, "Where are you coming from?" And it tilts. I don't know why. I think I've talked about this in the show, but it tilts me so hard when they say that because they're trying to exploit their people's respect for authority, and they're trying to get them to tell them something that they shouldn't be telling them. You know what I'm saying?
It's a slight manipulation to sort of say, where are you coming? Because it's really not kind of relevant, right?
Exactly. It's not their business where I'm coming from. So
what are you gonna say? Well, I was selling drugs.
Meth lab, obviously.
I've got like $40,000 in the back right now, so I'm just in a kind of a hurry to stash it.
Well, I think what they're looking for is uneasiness. So if that's the case, and the guy was coming from a meth lab, he's going to stumble over his words, maybe, or if he's drunk, maybe I came from the bar, whatever. Who knows what he's going to say? Either way, it tilts the shit out of me. And and they do this at drunk driving stops as well. When you get pulled over into a roadblock, they'll ask you the first thing is, "Where are you coming from?" And I always say, "Back there." And it never starts it
doesn't work for you.
I'm always starting off on a bad foot with these people because back there is a smart ass answer, but I don't know what else to say other than it's none of your fucking business.
Well,
where
yeah,
I'm
like if you're
from.
going west, the answer could be east.
Yeah, so that's what I said this time, and he goes, "Excuse me," and I said, "Back there," and he goes, "Well, that's not somewhere," and I said, "Well, that's where I'm coming from," and from there it didn't go well. Let's just say,
Oh boy.
and I got all that was coming to me as far as the ticket goes, but yeah, that pissed me off. But
Mr. Leadfoot Schwartz there.
Yeah.
I've probably told this story in the Pokercast, but Adam, of course, on our road trip at the WPT Niagara Falls a few years back, almost got us impounded in literally the middle of nowhere, southern Ontario, doing 146 in a 100 zone, kilometers, obviously. But if he'd been doing 150, if he didn't do 4 more, they would have had the right to impound, suspend the license immediately for 7 days. We would basically be hitchhiking from, like Sarnia, Ontario.
it was Brantford. It was like Wayne Gretzky's hometown.
Yeah.
It was the guy was furious.
I've still got because it was such a great souvenir. I've still got the tickets somewhere. I've even got Adam, if you'll let me, I can even post it in the forum without your personalized information on there. But it's just it's one of my great moments because that cop was not happy, and I'm glad you didn't answer it back there, but probably because he didn't ask the question.
He just started yelling at us. He was, or at me. He was upset. Yeah, there's no question. Driving Adventures with A. Schwartz. I saw American Sniper this week. You're down there. There's a movie complex in the Crown.
There's a gorgeous movie.
We talked about it. Yeah,
what VIP seats and the lounge and the big chair. Yeah, it's wonderful. But I haven't not seen American Sniper.
So I went to see American Sniper, and late in the last couple of years, every war movie has Bilzerian in it. And I'm thinking, I'm looking. I'm not watching the main actors. I'm looking at all the extras standing around looking for a Bilzerian because I know he's going to be in this thing somewhere. Wasn't in it. I was shocked. I thought maybe he'd work his way into that one, but did not get in there. When
you Google American Sniper, by the way, the first result right now, at least for me, is RollingStone.com saying American Sniper is almost too dumb to criticize.
It was bad. It was pretty bad.
Was it bad?
Yeah,
Okay.
I didn't enjoy it too much. Well, there was one scene that, and I don't want to spoil anything for people, but it made me physically ill. Like I gagged. But it was that bad.
From the violence or the
terrible anybody
acting?
it wasn't terrible acting. It was certainly a situation that was going on in the movie. But yeah, for anybody who's I mean, if you're going to see the movie, it's a war movie that has some tactical and interesting parts, but the acting, I thought, and the general overall movie wasn't as good as I was hoping. But and speaking of not as good as I was hoping, and we joked about it off the top of the show, and I know you guys aren't. This is the one time. Well, I miss MJ lots of times, but right now he's a sports guy, and he and I would be going crazy right now about what happened in this Green Bay Seattle game on the weekend. It was one of the most boring, poorly coached. It was the most poorly coached game I've ever seen, but it was horribly boring for a long time. And then there was like 3 minutes of complete chaos where Seattle mounted this giant comeback. They were, I think, at one point I was looking on Twitter, and they had, I think their win equity was
2% to win.
Yeah, it was like 4%, or 2 or 4%. I mean, they were just giant dogs. But and obviously they come back and win. But that wasn't the tilting. And I'm a Seattle fan. So, but the coaching by Green Bay's Mike McCarthy, their head coach, was so bad it was tilting me, even though it was good for me that this guy was butchering the game, right?
Because sometimes you watch poker on television and you're just going like, how is this guy here? How is he in this tournament? You want to yell through the TV that this guy plays so bad. And I can understand, like, I'm not a football fan. I mean, I understand the sport. I to some extent, I mean, I know the rules and I know the strategy, at least to some degree. It's comprehensible that people would be critical of incredibly bad, obviously bad decisions. And I didn't watch this football game because, like I said, I don't watch football. Like sometimes I watch the Super Bowl, but not even that consistently. I was watching like UFC while everybody was watching this. But even reading on Twitter, I could tell that this guy was coaching badly simply because the people who were freaking out on Twitter were making sense, right? They're like, oh, how many times is this guy going to like kick a field goal on 4th and 1 or whatever? Like kicking a field goal on 4th and 1 is like one of the most retarded things that you can do in the first quarter. Even I know that because like the EV of converting on 4th and 1 is probably going to be like, I don't know. I'm sure it's probably better than 50%, right?
Well, he was fourth. He had 4th and 1 on the half-yard line of Seattle in the first quarter, and he kicked a field goal. And it was funny because I was watching the game and I was live tweeting. I had my laptop on my lap, and it was 3rd down on the 1. And I said, and I tweeted this before 4th. I said, God, I hope they don't get it here just to watch Mike McCarthy kick a 17-yard field goal. And sure enough, they go 3rd down, they don't make it. 4th down, he brings in the kicking team, and it's such a horrendous decision. It's not close. Like you said, the expectation is like I think 1.7 points difference in going for it on 4th down, and it's not just getting the touchdown. It's if you don't get it, the other team is on the half-yard line, and their negative expectation there, and it's just so simple. Like, and it's not like this math isn't isn't available. I mean, the entire world is retweeting the 4th down bot.
Well, they're actively choosing to ignore the math. Like that. Yeah. That's what they're saying. Like they're saying, "Oh, take the points." Like it's not about you guys can put your calculators. It's what people said about poker like 10 years ago before everybody realized, oh wait, the math guys are right.
Yeah.
It really is like clearly just people sticking their head in the sand, actively ignoring it. Except the problem is with football or with professional sports is they're not punished. Like all those poker players that thought that math is stupid and like you should like never call like an 8BB shove with like ace deuce or something like that. Those people are all broke. Right, yeah. Because poker punishes people who make really horrendous mathematical decisions like that. But football doesn't, because there's 30 guys who keep rotating through the same job. So like if this guy gets fired from this team, he ends up getting another team. Like, oh, maybe he makes like $500,000 a year less than he did before. But it's like this old boys network where if you didn't already coach an NFL team, you're not going to coach an NFL team, or you have to at least have like been this big superstar college football team. But like they're just so atrociously bad at math because they were never required to learn it, because they used to be like the backup field goal kicker or something like that, and that qualifies them more. It's like that's why I think it's tilting, is because the coach that makes these horrible decisions isn't going to go broke because of it. He's still going to make his $6 million or whatever he's going to make.
Well, and they celebrate him. Like Mike. There's many people out there who think Mike McCarthy is the one of the best coaches in the league, and he's the worst game manager.
He's probably good at other stuff. I mean,
sure. I mean,
he's competent
no
at
question. But
drawing plays and X's and O's.
Absolutely,
and all that kind of stuff.
And that's what's even more tilting, because he's obviously intelligent about football, and there's this set of math that's available to him that's not complicated. If you sit down with somebody for an hour and they explain it to you, you're going to understand it. And for to continue down this road that we do in the NFL, and I cannot wait literally until the first head coach in the NFL who understands this stuff. I don't care what team he coaches, they're going to instantly be my favorite team. I'm just going to cheer for them nonstop, and I don't think I'm the only one.
Whoever the money ball of football ends up being is basically what you're saying.
I'm going to love that guy. I mean, so that's one thing. We were talking about the 4th and a half yard line. McCarthy's got you got to take the points, trust your defense bullshit that they always trot out. But there's other just horrendous decisions that he makes, and it's not just when you're talking about expectation for going for it on 4th down. At the end of the game, Seattle ends up making a miracle touchdown, miracle 2-point conversion to go up 22-19. Rodgers now brings the Green Bay Packers down the field. And with 18 seconds left in the game, they call a timeout. Mike McCarthy, the head coach of the Green Bay, calls a timeout and kicks the field goal. Now he can let the clock tick down to 2 or 3 seconds and then call a timeout and kick the field goal and be the last play of the game. But he called the timeout at 18 seconds, which meant that Seattle got to get the kickoff and get down and have the ability, maybe, possibly,
to score,
to lose the game, to win the game, when it's a simple decision like that. So it's not
I didn't even hear about that one, because I guess the other ones are just
there's
so no
bad.
Consequence to it. And they didn't score, but
exactly.
So there ended up being no negative consequence. But that seems even more awful just because there actually isn't any math involved.
Oh my god,
there's just common sense in that one.
Yeah, and just I think like I said before, I think it was just one of the worst. And Seattle didn't do wasn't exactly a pillar of coaching genius either. Pete Carroll now is down. Here's another thing that happened in the third quarter. Seattle gets a touchdown. They're down 16-0. Late in the third quarter, they get a touchdown. Of course, 6 points, and if you go for 2, you can bring it down to one score. If they get the touchdown, convert the 2-pointers. Now they're at 16-8. They're within one score. Carroll just trots out the extra point, kicks the field goal, so they're still down 2 scores. It pales in comparison to what happened on the other side of the football, so you don't hear about that. But of course they won the game.
Well, isn't that less clear because it's still fairly early in the game and like the
it's
points
not,
are just
well,
points.
Yeah, I mean it's still correct to go for 2, but less than some of the mistakes, I guess, is what you're saying.
Take your word for it.
Yeah. Anyways. So that's our off-topic stuff for the week. Yes, we got to get into some In Case You Missed It.
Now it's time for In Case You Missed It.
How did he miss the open goal? 6x4, and he comes up 0.
Oh no! Oh yes, he missed it.
He's missed it. How on earth did he miss that?
Wow, how long did you work on that, Ross?
Loving that intro. That's fantastic. I love that.
It wasn't that long.
First order of business on In Case You Missed It this week. Darren Woods, poker player in the UK, gets sentenced to jail time. 15 months of jail time for multi-accounting and fraud against online poker sites and payment processors. He's a 2001 World Series of Poker bracelet winner, 2011 World Series of Poker bracelet winner. He, as I said, gets sentenced to 15 months. He also has to pay back over $1 million Great British pound. How do you say Great Britain pounds?
Pounds.
How is it? But it's G. It's
yes, it is Great Britain.
GBE.
How do you say it? Great British pounds.
Great Britain pounds.
Great Britain pounds.
I think.
Never said all
Just
3
say
words
pounds.
before.
Just say quid.
Over 1 million quid to the victims of his fraud. If he doesn't pay all the money back, he gets an additional 6 years in jail, which is interesting. Do you spend 6 years in jail for £1 million, Terrence?
Well, I don't know. Did you really get to? Does he really have that option? Does he have a choice? Or is it just that if he doesn't have the money, then he has to spend the
good point.
extra?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think you get to just keep the.
It's not optional. Yeah, that makes sense.
Proceeds, but it is, of course, an interesting hypothetical. So basically, talking about getting a salary of 166. $1,000 a year in British pounds. What's that, about $240 US?
After tax?
Yeah, no.
No, it's not even close.
Okay, yeah, so gross, it's I don't know, a little bit more than that. But no, it's not.
What's my number for 6 years in jail? It's got to be
that's a really long time. I mean, you come out of jail and then you miss stuff too, right? Imagine if you just missed the last 6 years and then you're oh well, Twitter's a thing now. I mean, just there's a lot of stuff that's happening in this day and age in 6 years. I mean, you go to jail and all of a sudden cars drive themselves all the time. I feel like you'd be missing a lot. So
it's interesting, this case, because it was decided, from what I can tell, it was decided on in the UK by a judge. And the first thing I thought about was, what if this happens in USA or Canada where you can have a jury trial? And you have to explain all of the intricacies of multi-accounting to Betty Smith, from Saskatchewan or Nebraska or something, if you're in the middle of nowhere and you have to explain card removal and how important it is to have, if you have 2 hands in the same game, all the different permutations of that. It would just be hilarious to try. I mean, a jury let OJ go. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
They're gonna have trouble trying to figure out if this guy was multi-accounting or not.
They convicted Adnan.
Yeah. I don't. It would have been interesting to see what would happen if and I would imagine if you're getting tried in the U.S. or Canada, you're going to want to have a jury because people aren't really going to get it. But During the investigations, the British authorities have confiscated 900,000 pounds, and he's got a 6-month deadline to pay 283,000 more pounds to I love this, to an unnamed Gibraltar-based company. I think we know that's Party Poker.
Which one?
Yeah. The money, and here's the other thing: the money will be sent to the players who have been victim of his fraud. So this is the multi-accounting part. And a failure of paying back the money may cost him an extra 6 years, that we mentioned. But how does Party Poker go back 6, 7, 8 years and try and figure out? Obviously they're going to have the hand data, but
it's a lot of work for them, for sure.
It's a lot of work, and a lot of 90% of these people. I mean, Party Poker is very, very small compared to what it used to be. I can't even imagine there's 10% of the same people that were playing in 08 or 07, whatever, still playing, and have access, old accounts. Like, they're going to have a nightmare on their hands to try and figure out how they're going to pay these people back.
That's a really interesting thing. I never considered the logistics of it. I mean, obviously, they're going to have this data of where at least they lived at the time, or some phone number or email or whatever contact information. I imagine they have to make a good faith effort to contact those people. But it could be so many players. Now, obviously, it's probably occurring at the high stakes, so I suspect it's worth it to any of these individual players to get their money back. It would be interesting to know the exact logistics of it. Like, what is Party Poker legally required?
Right.
What lengths they didn't do anything wrong.
What lengths they need to go to?
Right. They shouldn't be punished because they didn't actually do anything wrong. On the other hand, most people would consider that they have a moral, at least, obligation to make this right, considering that this happened at their tables and they're the only intermediary between the guy who cheated and the people who were cheated. So I have to think that there's some requirement on there. But that would be an interesting thing. I wonder if we could find someone who would know the answers to these kind of questions, or maybe if somebody's on the forums who might know a little bit more about legal situations in this case than us, which would be most people.
Yes.
Something that really ticked me off. I saw this article pop up on Facebook, and I'm kind of a dumbass for always reading the comments of these articles. But first of all, Poker News listed this as 2011 World Series of Poker champion Darren Woods to spend 15 months in jail. And then I open the comments, and it's like 15 people going, "It's rigged. I told you. I told you online poker's rigged. I should play at my local card room in Wyoming."
It's
clearly he the bracelet that he won, he actually busted me from that event.
Did he really?
I'm entitled. I remember that. I was it's a 6 max limit hold'em, so I do remember that I was playing with him, and then he ended up winning the tournament. So maybe I'm entitled to some compensation.
Yes.
Maybe he opened up some other seats at the table and colluded against me.
Judge Paul Watson, who did the sentencing, said to him, "You're an intelligent."
Our poker hero, Judge Paul Watson, is what you meant to say, I believe.
That's right. You're an intelligent, able, and even gifted young man, but you turned your talents towards defrauding online gaming companies and cheating other players at online poker, which pretty harsh. I guess he ended up pleading guilty halfway through the trial to most of them, or some of the charges at least. Ended up getting 15 months, as I said. The other thing I thought about was this is precedent set now in the UK for people that are doing this. This isn't the first guy that lives in the UK to multi-account or set up affiliate. This and the other one of the fraud part against the poker sites was also what was included in that was he was setting up affiliate accounts in his uncle's name, opening up accounts, several accounts, and then using those accounts to multi-account. And he's not the first person to do that. This was rampant back in the Full Tilt days, et cetera. And this is what we're talking about, this time period that he's listed as some of these offenses.
Right. So if we talk about like degree of severity, right? Like so there's different types of multi-accounting, obviously, and I think it's important to be clear on what kind, because there's the multi-accounting that exists that is sort of frowned upon, but it's basically creating new screen names so that when you play, maybe you get action from people that you wouldn't normally get, or the regs that you play against, like they don't know your style and this kind of that's the kind of stuff that went on like a lot in the late 2000s, early 2010s, that kind of stuff. That it's certainly frowned upon, but people probably don't think you should go to jail for it. I don't think most people think you go to jail with it. And then there's obviously the level of multi-accounting where you're actually like playing the same games. You're colluding against people, you're sharing whole card information, or you're playing the same sit and go, or you're playing the same MTT and you're entering yourself in the same MTT multiple times. That's the kind of stuff that I think everybody would agree that's like clearly cheating. But it's interesting because in this case, a big part of this seems to hinge on the idea of what you just mentioned, which is opening the other accounts, under an affiliate and trying to get rake back and all that. And at the same time, of course, he happens to be using these accounts to cheat, to collude in the sense. But I wonder if this were strictly a collusion case and he was just opening account. I mean, I feel like if you're going to go to the step of opening multiple accounts to collude at the tables, you might as well be getting rake back out of it. So I don't imagine you would do like there's no. I mean, if you're going to get caught doing one thing, you're probably going to get caught doing the other. So you might as well get the rake back. But
well, it sounds like it added time, right? I mean, these are more fraudulent offenses, so they just sort of added up and
right. But if he just opened an account and like he didn't sign up for an affiliate deal, would he have gotten caught? Would he be going to jail for 15 months? Would it be like 12 months? Or I don't know. It's sort of interesting.
It is interesting, and like I said, he's not the first person to do this, and this has set precedent. So I'm wondering if there's, and how dangerous is it that poker sites like Party Poker, who have all this information, other sites, Stars, Full Tilt, whoever else, has this info now. And if they, decided to forward this to the police with some sort of long report about this person who lives at this address in the UK, go and get them. You know what I mean? Like, is there more to come from this?
Well, I think so. I mean, I'll speak from my experience at Ultimate Poker. Obviously, we never had a case like anything like this, of course, but there were people who fraudulently deposited on site. That's been a problem in the gaming industry. It's been a problem in the internet commerce industry since the beginning of time. People fraudulently depositing on sites, with stolen credit cards, with bank accounts that have no money in them, all this kind of stuff. And I mean, one of the things about being a regulated site, is that you kind of can go to local law enforcement agencies and say like, hey, this is a bad guy. Here, we've got some information. I mean, you might not, in the case of us, we were required to go to the Nevada Gaming Commission first, to the New Jersey Department of Gaming Enforcement, anytime we saw something wrong. But that is kind of one of the nice things about the new era, because if you rewind, and this is like 2003, and what PokerStars might send something to the Kanawaki Gaming Commission, but what's the Kanawaki Gaming Commission going to do to some guy sitting in his house in Arizona, right? Absolutely nothing, So now there actually is some legal recourse, as you say, with that. Obviously not everybody is super excited about the fact that the government can get their hands on this information. But if it does mean that some bad guys can go away for a while, as long as it's not abused in some terrible way, then there is sort of a silver lining to it.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens, and if more people are referred to the police, with some of this stuff. Imagine if Russ Hamilton was in front of this guy.
One time, right? Like one time.
That would have been fantastic. In case you missed it, Daniel Negreanu is working with a group to bring the NHL to Las Vegas. And I thought that, obviously we're hockey fans, Terrence.
I'm surprised by this because Daniel's a really big hockey fan. Obviously, he lives in Vegas, but generally, Canadian hockey fans have been of the opinion that NHL teams in really hot American climates that don't care that much about hockey have sort of been failures. Atlanta, Florida, Tampa Bay, Phoenix.
Well, you group Tampa Bay in there. I'm not sure Tampa Bay is one of the failure that and the other one I would point to, or
only because they've been a really good team.
Okay, maybe, but do we know for sure, I guess? And then Los Angeles was a bad team for a very long time. They had Gretzky, obviously, so that helped. Anaheim wasn't a great team for a long time. They were the joke with the Anaheim Mighty Ducks until they ended up winning the Stanley Cup in 2007. But I agree with you. It's tilting to see some of the places that Bettman has sent NHL teams, and some of the ones you mentioned. I think Las Vegas. It's a super high variance play, right, for the NHL, especially when they have
Las Vegas is always high variance, right?
Yeah, right. I mean, first of all, I don't understand, and I never have understood the whole reluctance to send a professional sports team or to have a professional sport team based in Las Vegas.
It's the most hypocritical thing ever, right? Like everybody's always saying, like, oh, it would be so easy for we wouldn't want our players gambling on it. Yeah, because it's really hard for millionaire professional athletes to find bookies.
Right.
Like that's a thing, right? I mean, I would have to think that, a big Las Vegas casino is kind of like the last place.
It is absolutely the last place.
Or like the sports book of, imagine LeBron James walking into the sports book of the MGM or something like that, going like, yeah, give me 5,000 on the Heat tonight. Like,
yeah. Well, I mean, I guess their argument would be they would have somebody else do it, but the betting limits are such that in Las Vegas that you're never going to be able to get anywhere close to the amount of money that you can get offshore down in a Las Vegas casino. Never mind that, there's all kinds of regulatory issues trying to bet 10,000 on a game if you could get the action on an NHL game. First of all, you can't in Las Vegas. Second of all, somehow or another you did, you're going to have to fill out forms and there's a paper trail, etc. So, that whole part of the argument, I have never understood as far as why they shouldn't have one there. The reasons why they shouldn't one of the reasons I think they shouldn't is because the population size of Las Vegas, the fact that they've had some, minor league hockey teams there that haven't, blown, the doors haven't been blown off, people coming in droves or anything like that. So, I don't know that it's going to. In fact, I would be really, really surprised if it's any kind of success at all in that city. And when I look at
NBA expansion is clearly the one that makes the most sense. The basketball is tremendous. I lived in Las Vegas, obviously, a few years, and basketball is tremendously popular. UNLV basketball, hugely popular. But like you said, the NBA won't touch it. It seems like the only reason that this is even being floated is because the NHL is the only one that's come out and said that, hasn't come out and said rather that we're not going to have a team in Las Vegas because of all the gambling associated with it. But it's the sport that out of the four major sports, it's the sports that makes the least sense, by far, because there's no history of hockey whatsoever in Las Vegas.
Well, and Las Vegas is a city on the brink, right? I mean, the movement of gaming away from Las Vegas, both, online to regional casinos to Macau, Las Vegas might survive, and it might, survive on its nightlife, its restaurants, its experience, all those things. But that's a might. It's not going to survive. Gambling isn't coming back in any kind of huge way like it used to be in Nevada. So,
especially when not even the threat from the internet, the threat from the fact that other states are generally tending to liberalize brick and mortar gaming. So Las Vegas isn't quite the destination it used to be, because it used to be practically, along with Atlantic City, the only place that you could gamble. And it certainly doesn't have that anymore. I mean, I don't know how many states have gambling, but it's a lot now. They have a bunch of casinos everywhere. Like you said, it's on the brink. It's struggled economically quite a bit. It's got water issues. I mean, we don't know if there's enough water in Las Vegas to sustain the population. There's definitely a lot of reason to be bearish on Las Vegas, and it's unfortunate because I still like Las Vegas. I'm not.
Oh yeah, me too.
I'm not jaded about the city the way that a lot of poker players are. I still think it's a very cool city. I just don't think that if I were to invest a big chunk of my net worth into a city, an American city, that would be the one.
Yeah, indeed. I love Vegas for 3 or 4 days to visit. I'm not sure I'd like to live there. But beside the point, if Las Vegas somehow did get an NHL team, can you imagine how great their home record would be? because if every team that comes into Las Vegas comes in the night before for a game the next day in Vegas, they're going out. I mean, let's face it.
Rookie night is going to get expensive.
The guys are going to be at the tables all night. I mean, here in Vancouver, there's this thing called the Roxy effect for the Vancouver Canucks. When opposing teams come into Vancouver, there's a bar here called the Roxy that's somewhat popular with the NHL. And every time the night before, you'll see the other team in the bar en masse. And if one little bar in Vancouver causes the Roxy effect, I'm trying to imagine what all the bars in Las Vegas, the effect that it would cause. It would be
on the other hand, with respect to the home record, is that if we're right and the attendance won't be very good at these games, a big chunk of the fans in the building will be the opposing team fans. So if you're talking about, they'll probably be in a division with LA, with Anaheim, with Vancouver, with Edmonton, Calgary, those kind of teams that are all within about a couple hours flight. Yeah, Phoenix, all like 1 to 3 hour flights of Las Vegas. People are going to be like, like you and me, we would watch the Canucks play in Vegas, go play pay $20 to go sit in the front row or something like that, cheer on the road team, and then you got a road team that's like halfway full, and so maybe home ice advantage wouldn't be as big as you think.
So immediately the names, of course, started pouring in. The owner of the prospective owner of the team is fond of the Black Knights, the Las Vegas Black Knights, and it's funny. Like if you hear whenever this happens and a team is coming up with a new name, every name sounds terrible. Every one of them. You don't ever hear one go, it's pretty good. I like that. I mean, it's always, these are terrible. And one of the others are the Wranglers, which is the old ECHL team there. Isn't great. The Battleborn. I guess that's
awful.
Their alternate state
nickname. Truly awful.
Las Vegas Battleborn.
I did not know that. Lived in Nevada 2 years. Did not know that.
The 21s. That's not good. I think the Blackjacks is probably better than the 21s. Yeah. The Las Vegas Mirage, which might have some naming issues, and maybe the Mirage pays for some naming rights there. The Mojave, the Las Vegas Wrath, the Quicksilvers. I guess it's the Silver State. The Quicksilvers, the Golden Eagles. The Heist, the Las Vegas Heist. I guess that's Ocean's 13 or Ocean's 11. The Wolfpack. I actually don't mind that one. The Las Vegas Wolfpack. That's not bad.
Wasn't that a team? Wasn't that like the Hartford Wolfpack or something like that?
No, the Hartford Whalers. I don't think there was an NHL team ever called the Wolfpack.
No. I'm thinking of like an IHL team or something like that.
Oh, yeah. What am I telling you? The Hartford Whalers. Yeah. You're saying like an AHL team?
The Hartford Wolfpack are currently a team. Yeah, that's the current team. I think they're an AHL team. So.
There you go. You nailed it.
I got one over Adam Schwartz on hockey.
You did.
Yes.
But of course, 2+2 had some. The Las Vegas Live Pros.
I came up with that one.
Oh, was that you? That's pretty good. The Las Vegas Coolers, which double entendre with the ice and of course, the movie. I
see what you did there.
The cooler. But my favorite is the Vegas Vigorish.
Yes, that's good. Vegas Vig.
That's Vigs.
Not bad. How about the Sin City 7 Outs?
That's not bad. The one outers. How about that? That would be interesting for sure. All right, let's move on from that one. In case you missed it, Polish government was found to be scraping the Hendon Mob website for player information, presumably Polish tournaments, the results of Polish tournament players, the aggregate amount that they had won. Alex Dreyfus, who we had on the show of the GPI and who also owns the Hendon Mob, says he's going to sue them for violating the terms of service for the website. The site owners can see who is searching their data, right? They have a report that if people are crawling. I mean, this is all new to me because I've never really been on the back end of this stuff, but they have all the information on who's crawling their website. And I guess what happened was they noticed that these Polish government computers were collecting the data, and what they did was they switched their IP a bunch of times, so they tried to mask where they were coming from, but they still found it. Dreyfus, he was talking about the fact that harvesting this data is a breach of the intellectual property in the site's T&Cs. But what I thought was and he came out and he said, by the way, you're scraping incorrect data. Since we saw you, scraping the site, we put a whole bunch of fake data on there for you.
LOL Poland.
Which was funny. Yeah, I got a kick out of that. But it seems unnecessary to me because all the Polish tax office would have to do is send out a press release telling all the poker players they need to pay their taxes and have some sort of veiled thread about all the available information that's out there for MTT caches, right? I mean, scraping the data and then going to them it seems like something they don't really need to do.
Well, you're sort of giving them a lot of credit, right? Like so the typical, if you have to think about people who aren't poker players, like anytime you meet some guy off the street or at a party or whatever, and he finds out you're a poker player, what's the first thing I always ask you? What's the most you've ever won?
Yeah.
So this is basically like the Polish government equivalent of like what is Marius or what's the most that he's ever won? Oh, wow. Won 2 million euros in the EPT whatever. He must be stinking rich, but he only claimed 52,000 of income on his return last year, and he only paid like 7,000. I don't know what the tax rate in Poland is, but you know what I mean. Like this guy could have been honestly declaring his income. He maybe he banked a score for 6 figures, 7 figures somewhere. He had 55% of himself out, and then he actually did honestly declare his income. But as far as the government can tell, this guy's a millionaire. Look at him. He's got like 4 million in winnings, right? Like we all know this. We all know that what you see on the Hendon Mob is a gross figure. It's not even remotely representative of the profits of a typical poker player. I mean, unless you're like Dan Coleman and you just win everything you enter. That's why I think they do stuff like scrape the information as opposed to just say like, hey, pay your taxes, because they probably just have no fucking idea because they're government accountants and hacks, right?
Yeah, no question. So a bit dangerous if you do live in Poland and you feel like maybe your data is being collected by the Polish government. Make sure you do your taxes properly.
That's not
legit.
That is not legit. Well, they weren't legit for sure. But good for Alex Dreyfus to come to not only his site's defense, but the defense of Polish poker players who certainly, hopefully, are doing the right thing and declaring their. I don't even know what the Polish tax situation is like for poker players, but hopefully everybody's doing what they should be doing. This just in: a new California online poker bill has been introduced just today by Assemblyman Reggie Jones Sawyer, which is a great name, by the way. Reggie Jones Sawyer, I love that name. Cliff's from Cliff Grove at Online Poker Report, a $10 million license fee.
That's not small.
Damn, that is not. Do you know what Nevada is, Terrence?
I don't off the top of my head.
Yeah, I mean it's not 10 million. I don't think, at least as far as I remember. That's pretty big. Additional fees for application and an annual renewal fee were left unspecified, so that's not just it. The $10 million up front, you're going to have to continue to pay. The license term is 4 years, renewable, so I'm guessing obviously $2.5 million a year. The tax rate is going to be 8.5% of your gross revenue or your gross rake. Regulations are due within 270 days of passage. If it is an urgency statute, so it requires 2/3 to pass. You have to be 21 and over. I mean, we're all waiting.
One more thing off that list too is that Chris was reading over this as he does, meticulous job that he always does, and interpreting one of the clauses that said basically it would be a felony to play on the the unregulated site, the Bovadas and the whatevers of the world, and so I thought that was particularly interesting as well that he didn't mention in that article, probably because he was scrambling to put it up, but I thought that was really interesting that that this legislation would potentially make it a felony to basically play on unregulated sites. Whether that would mean that a SWAT team would come to your door and if they catch you in the act, they're gonna point the rifles in your face and take you down and haul you off to jail. I don't know, but that's certainly an interesting thing too. And if that's the case, I would imagine still most California poker players would still kind of be in favor just because of the potential boom of such a large state, regulated poker in their state. But I thought that was really interesting as well. And
that is, yeah. Well, I mean, if they had access to several sites that were putting out a good product, probably wouldn't be somewhere they would go play anyway.
Right, but we did see this in Nevada, right? I worked at Ultimate Poker, and we did certainly, because obviously different story because Nevada doesn't have nearly the action that California has. So people were Bovada was definitely taking some action away from us at the time because we simply didn't have the games going. Bovada has the worldwide liquidity pool and all players, and so it is not unheard of for people to be playing on the unregulated sites while regulated options are available, but obviously less so in California.
In case you missed it, Ryan Reynolds is starring in a poker movie called Mississippi Grind that will be released soon. I don't know if you saw this news story, Terrence, but apparently at Sundance, this movie is going to make its debut next week. It follows two poker players as they hit the road together to make a high-stakes poker tournament. I don't know what that means. To make a high-stakes poker tournament in New Orleans. To make it?
I would imagine play.
Yeah, I would imagine it means make it to a high-stakes poker tournament in New Orleans. The quote is, "It's very much a character piece," the writer said about the project. Both characters have different agendas. There's two of them, including Ryan Reynolds. Jerry, I guess is not Ryan Reynolds' character, wants to win his money and change his life and pay off his debts. Curtis's motivations are a lot more mysterious. We don't know what is going on in this journey till it reveals itself later in the movie, which sounds somewhat familiar to the Mike McD trying to get to Las Vegas type thing.
So is Jerry the Joey Knish of what's going on? Or
I think Jerry's the worm. He's the degenerate
paying
gambler.
Off his debts. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So obviously, I'm ready to be cringing, but it's I'm going to go see it because it's about poker.
Yeah,
you do have that. I'll wait for the reviews. I'll wait. I'm always that guy. I'm not going to make a 2.5 hour investment until at least somebody I respect says this movie doesn't suck, because you might get stuck with a runner.
Runner suck, but I still got a kick out of it because of the poker angle. You
watched Runner, so
I did. Yes,
I forgot to mention last week that I went and saw The Gambler.
Oh,
and I would classify it as a bust.
Oh yeah,
it was. It really just made no sense.
It was bad, yeah. There was a lot of really stupid things that absolutely were nonsensical. That would never happen. It was just I was just shaking my head through most of it. Unfortunately,
it really didn't. Yeah, it didn't cater to somebody who's really gambled,
who had any kind of clue about gambling. Yeah. It wasn't very good. So we're going to go to break. We are going to come back. We're going to talk to. Oh, we didn't mention who we're going to have as our guest this week. It is the incomparable Neil Channing, fan favorite, our favorite. He is always fun to talk to. We're going to head over to, I think he stayed up late for us too, which is nice of him. He's been watching the tennis. He is going to be back right after this. You're listening to the 2+2 Pokercast, presented by the Pokerstars VIP Club. More right after this.
Hey guys, this is Bart Hansen for CrushLivePoker.com. Whether you're a recreational player who wants to compete at the tables, or you're a professional and you want to increase your win rate, the material that I've produced at CrushLivePoker.com will make you a better poker player. Act now and you can subscribe for free by using the coupon code TPC11. That's TPC for the Pokercast 11 and get your first month free.
6 max zoom 500, 230 big blinds deep. MP opens to 10 and I 3-bet 36 on the button with kings. He 4-bets small to 63 and I 5-bet 143 and flat his $222 6-bet. Pot is 450 with 1,000 behind. He bets 555 on the 10-7-3 rainbow flop, and I think, too bad I'm not capable of folding in these spots as I shove, only to see him turn over ace-10 after calling. I hold for 500 big blind pot.
Team Pro Online's Mikhail Inasai Shalamov is a Supernova Elite VIP. This is the 2+2 Pokercast, presented by the Pokerstars VIP Club.
Hey, poker players, don't forget to participate in the weekly Pokerstars Invitational for Pokercast listeners. Every Sunday at noon Pacific, 8 p.m. in the UK. Just $1.10 with $500 added to the prize pool each week. Formats vary, but you can always find it in the private tab of the tourney lobby. The guys will announce the password somewhere in this very show. See you at the tables.
Hi guys, it's Mike from ProfessionalPoker.com and the 2+2 store with some great news for our PokerStars players. You can now use your frequent player points to purchase gift cards available from professionalpoker.com. The same cards will also work at the 2+2 store. The gift cards come in increments of $25 and $50, and you can apply multiple gift cards per order. Now you can get the books, videos, and ebooks from all the major publishers using just your FPPs. So check out the gift card section of the PokerStars FPP store and pick up the poker training material you've had your eye on for a while at the 2+2 store and professionalpoker.com.
Back to the 2+2 Pokercast presented by the Pokerstars VIP Club. Our feature guest this week is a fan favorite and a favorite of ours as well. He is Mr. Neil Channing. I would imagine he's going to be knighted soon. It'll be Sir Neil Channing quite soon. Neil, welcome back to the Pokercast.
That would be good, actually. I hadn't really thought about that, but now you've put the idea in my head. Like, you know, like you can get an OB pretty easily, you know, just for being a lollipop lady or something.
Yeah.
So I have to explain lollipop lady.
Yes.
That might be alienating. You're somebody that holds a thing up to let kids cross the street that looks a bit like a lollipop. Most people get an OBE. But then to get like a proper knighthood, a CBE, you have to be, you know, a civil servant or have some dirt on the government or something like that. They don't tend to give it to poker players. I guess once Devilfish has got his, then I'll probably be next.
Do you think Devilfish, like, would he be the odds-on favorite for an English poker player? Devilfish is number one. He seems far down the list to me.
I got to feel like maybe not. I don't know. I think serving time incarcerated doesn't really. They don't like that when they're giving out knighthoods.
No,
it's part of your public service, though. You could direct traffic, and then that backdoors you into the aforementioned method.
Indeed, Neil, welcome back to the show. We missed you at the World Series of Poker this year. This is the first year, or was the first year that you'd not come to Vegas in a long time.
Yeah, the first time I came during World Series was '97. Stewie Unger. Outside on Fremont Street.
Yeah,
and I've been every year since. I kind of felt like, you know, I was going to come every year unless I was dead. And then as it got nearer, you know, it was the World Cup, and I don't know, it didn't appeal that much. I must admit I had bad experience the year before, like just bad tables of people that were just miserable and mean. And
I remember you wrote a blog about that. You were talking about people.
Yeah, I ended up ranting about it for a long time, but I don't know whether it did me any good. I got quite a lot of people seem to agree with me. I can't believe that people disagreed, actually.
Yeah.
I don't think there was really anything to disagree with. Like, I don't really understand how a reasonable person could disagree with the idea that just talking to everyone in an equal fashion at the table. I totally get the people that said, well, I'm shy, I don't want to talk. That's fine. That wasn't really my beef. My beef was with people that want to talk all the time, but will only talk to people who are on their, what they perceive to be their social circle, clique, whatever. And I didn't like any of that. But yeah, whatever. I mean, I'm probably going to come this year, and I'll just, I'll just keep away from those kind of tournaments. I won't play anything that's like, unusual Hold'em, because the normal people don't play that. It's just the annoying people play those ones.
Yeah,
not all of them are annoying, obviously. Some of them are very nice, but just, I don't know. There is a little body of annoying ones there.
Well, it's funny. I've always found mixed game players to be the grumpiest, especially like people who play the stud games. I always think like, the Raz players are always, of course, the cliche. But
I think you're right. Well, I mean, that is a game that's going to make you grumpy.
I was just going to say that, yeah.
You're definitely right. I mean, the mixed game at the Vic has recently kind of broken up, and, you know, the number of wars they had in the last, you know, it was running every day for like 3 years, a decent mixed game, and just every time I went in there, they're like, yeah, he's not speaking to him. Oh, these two guys don't speak to these two guys anymore, and they were the same 6 people would sit down and play every single night, and there was always a feud going on, and it was always a different person feuding.
Yeah,
it's great, I love it.
You don't have to leave London for to find poker tournaments anymore. There's a ton of stuff going on. Well, not anymore, but I mean it's almost the epicenter of Europe over there. You had EPT London. You've got the UK IPT events coming through. What was your take on those events? And did you play them?
I played the UK IPT that was immediately before the EPT, whenever that was, in the autumn, and it was totally miserable. Like, they didn't have it in a casino; they had it in a hotel. So now you had to go to the Hippodrome Casino, line up in one line. Then they said, no, that's no good. You can't pay with the card. You have to get chips from the counter. So then you have to go down 2 floors, get the chips, come back, line up again. Then I said, could I buy this other guy in because I was staking him? And they said, no, you can't buy him in because you could be money laundering. He has to buy himself in. But I wanted to pay for us both from the same chip, so I had to now get change so that we could pay separately. So that was queuing up some more. Then they said, oh, you don't have the right kind of card. You should have a PokerStars player card. They tried to tell me that was by law that you needed a PokerStars player card. I mean, that's such bullshit. Like, you can, like, I go to supermarkets and they say, do you have a loyalty card? I always say no every time. There's no way they're going to convince me that it's a law you have to have a loyalty card. Anyway, then I had to line up and get a PokerStars card, even though I've got one somewhere and I just lost it. And when I got to the casino, there was another line to show someone your PokerStars loyalty card when I got to the hotel. And then I got to the table and they said, oh yeah, we didn't really need to see that. So I just thought that was, it was like, it took me an hour from arriving at the building to playing a hand. And, yeah, it was a bit miserable. I'm not a big fan of the UK IPT, actually. The tour itself, they've gone for an unusual buy-in level. It's £700, so, it's roughly $1,000. Which, if you're going to fly somewhere, which, it's the UK and Ireland poker tour, so if you fly to Ireland, you're probably going to spend a couple of hundred on flying, and maybe 300 or 400 on hotels for 3 nights or something. Just feel like that's a bit too much of a small tournament to leave the country for. The side events generally are even, obviously smaller, so if they have a high roller, it's normally like 2K, and doesn't really get more than like 40 people. So I don't know. I don't want to really fly to another country to play a tournament where Min Cash is not going to pay the expenses. So I don't really play too many of those. PokerStars are juicing them pretty high as well. It's 700 buy-in in the ones in England where it's pounds. They charge you £700 plus 70, and then they take 3% of the prize pool, and then they ask you if you'd like to leave a gratuity if you cash. So I feel like that's taking quite a lot out of it. I understand this argument that poker tournaments don't really make much money for the organisers, but at the end of the day, I think PokerStars are doing okay out of poker. They're making a bit of money, I seem to remember. And, the point of the tour is to get everybody playing all of their satellites, which are doing really well. And there is quite a large demographic of people that are playing the satellites professionally who are kind of forced to turn up at the tournaments. And actually, the proportion of those to, like, normal, regular people is a bit high at the moment, which makes them not that pleasant. They've got one this week, and I'm not I'm not going to play it. I think I've missed it already. I think day 1B was today. They got reasonable turnout, but not brilliant. There's a GUKPT, which is the Grosvenor Tour, next week in the Vitz, which is 1,000 buy-in. They just charge 1,100. There's no taking money out of the prize pool, and they don't lean on you for tips.
Sorry to interrupt, Neil, but I do think that's a very good point that you bring up, that, it always annoys me as well whenever tournaments take money out of the prize pool for the staff or for the dealers. I think that's fine, because there were definitely times where dealers were underpaid and they relied on whoever won the tournament's generosity, and now they don't have to rely on that. But if you're going to do that, then you're also, same thing at restaurants. If you're going to include a gratuity, then don't ask people for additional
definitely. And also, I think it's reasonable. I've been pretty generous when I've won big amounts of money in terms of tipping. But if I min cash, I don't really expect to have to tip. I mean, that just seems a bit silly to me. Like, if I double my money and they've already taken 3% plus I'm buying in for $770 and they're taking 3%, and the min cash is maybe $1,500. That's a bit rich to ask me for a tip on that, I think.
It's funny,
sure, if one guy's going to win 80 grand, he might not mind giving 500 or 600 or something like that. But not if I'm just going to, lose money after X's.
It's funny how people or companies look at poker tournaments differently now, right? Because poker tournaments used to be a vehicle to bring people in to play cash games. And then it changed.
Absolutely.
It changed to, like you said, now they have it in. You're not even in a casino anymore. It's over here. It's a standalone sort of event in itself, and it's going to be really hard for them to make money, off the tournament and still be, able to charge a reasonable amount of rate.
I can definitely see that. I mean, the types of the players are more diverse now. You're either a tournament player or you're a cash player. People don't turn up. I mean, it used to be common that people would turn up, play the tournament, bust, and go and play the cash to try and win their buy-in back. I don't see people doing that anymore. They roll into a couple of side events, and then they go home and play online, or they go and play the next live tournament somewhere else. I'm not saying they're necessarily live tournament professionals. I still think those are fairly rare creatures, if there are any at all. But there's not so much versatility between the players, so it's hard for them to get money out of the cash games. Just because the UK IPT's in town this week, it's not making the cash games any different than they were last week in London. Probably worse, actually. But at the end of the day, PokerStars are doing quite a good job of monetizing the tour now. They do quite well out of the packages. They charge quite a lot for the hotels and the packages. Considering they're already doing a deal 6 months in advance with the hotel, they're getting the rooms wholesale price, and then they're charging them in the packages at retail price. I'm all in favor of companies making a profit. That's fine, but given that there are choices about where we play, I just want to choose the ones where it's a bit cheaper.
Right, and the other thing is the branding, of course, that they get out of it, and they've done quite well with it.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I had black belt poker for 6 years. Every time I played a PokerStars tournament, it was impossible to buy in, because if I bought in on my PokerStars account, then they would be saying to me I had to wear branding and stuff like that. We had players that we were staking into the tournaments, and the player would say to me, well, I've got money in stars, shall I just buy in on stars? And I'd say no, because they're going to force you, if you make the final, they're going to force you to wear a patch and stuff. And then occasionally, because they're kids and they're annoying, they would just do that anyway. And then I'd have a massive argument with Stars. Look, he's our player. Why'd you keep putting him on the blog as a PokerStars professional and stuff? It's really annoying. And, I have all kinds of arguments with them about that. I don't know. I've fallen out of love with PokerStars in a big way, which doesn't make me unusual in the industry this year. But I was doing it before it was fashionable.
What's your poker playing like now, Neil? Are you cash game? Are you playing tournaments mostly? It doesn't sound like you're enjoying tournaments too much. What about cash games? You playing in those?
No, I'm enjoying it when I play. I don't get to play very often. I didn't play much last year. I played. I guess I played like 7 tournaments last year or something like that. I really picked and chose. I just chose ones that I thought were going to be fun, where the juice wasn't too bad. Like next week, there's the GUKPT at the Vic, which is the Grosvenor Tour that's been going for 10 years. It's 1,000 buy-in, and it's just a completely different demographic. I would say the average age of the entrance is probably 6 years higher than the UKPT. You're much more likely to get 2 random businessmen on your table. People I've been playing poker with for 15 years who are still making the same kind of mistakes they were making 15 years ago, and you know that if you see them in 15 years' time, they're still going to be making the same mistakes. But they're buying into 1,000 tournament, and they don't care. They're just there to have fun and whatever. So I like those kind of things, and there's enough of that. In London, you can play probably like 2 decent tournaments a month like that if you want it. Cash game wise, it's gone a bit. Everything's politics now. I guess it happens around the world. I've heard people rowing in Vegas about the games in the area and getting into this game. And you have to speak to this guy, and I'm not friends with this guy, so I can't get in. And it's a bit like that in London. There's a lot of we don't want this guy to play, or let's make the minimum buy-in 20 grand instead of 5 grand, so that these guys don't get to play. I don't know. I don't really like the Palm Beach. A lot of the cash games revolve around there, but they recently had it's quite funny actually. They had like a staff meeting of all the pro poker players. They pulled them all into the casino and said, "There's too many of you. You're not helping these games to be nice because there's just too many of you. Can you agree between you to stop coming in every night, or maybe we'll start barring the ones that don't give action on the tables?"
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, basically the ecosystem changed, and there was the wrong ratio of recreationals to pros. And the poker room recognized that, which is kind of interesting because I didn't think they had an understanding of that kind of stuff. But, I think there may be better ways to handle that. But it's interesting that they're thinking about it anyway. There's another subculture that's cropped up, which I contributed to a couple of years ago, where there's a couple of places that haven't traditionally had poker that are starting like small private games. Like the Ritz Casino started a game 2 years ago. They wanted to rival this big game that was going on at Les Ambassadeurs. And they thought they could get the 2 or 3 big roulette players that were playing in the Les Ambassadeurs game to come to the Ritz. So we started a poker game there. It was quite a nice game. It was like 10-25. Sometimes Hold'em, sometimes Omaha, sometimes a bit of each. Most people sitting with like 5 or 10 grand, a couple of city boys, a couple of lawyers, a couple of accountants, that kind of thing. And then when I came to Vegas the year before last, all the people that I'd been saying to them, "Yeah, don't let that guy in. Yeah, he's no good for the game. Yeah, we don't want him." I came back from Vegas and they were all sitting there waiting for me. And I stopped going. I just said, "Well, look, I told you how to run this game, and you're not very good at running games. And I think you let the wrong kind of people in." I don't know. Now they've bust a lot of people, and now there's like 4 of them turning up to play 50, 100, 200 PLO with a 50 grand sit down, and like they play 3-handed and just hope that one day an Arab sheikh might walk in or something.
Wasn't there a story about Roland DeWolf in that game or something? Am I remembering?
Well, he was playing in this game as ambassadors for, I don't know, maybe 4 years or something. I mean, he kind of, he plays a few casino games, and he's a pretty good networker. He managed to get to a situation where there weren't too many pros allowed in that game, but he was allowed to play whenever he wanted, and he could decide who turned up and whatever. But there was one guy that lost a lot of money, and was kind of a bad loser about it, and he stopped the check to the casino, so they tried to sue him, and then he countersued and said that Roland and the casino manager had been colluding to cheat him. The guy, the inspector that was running the game. I don't know. I mean, the case got kicked out of court anyway. It didn't even go to court. It was a bit silly, really. Roland won quite a lot of money in that game. I mean, that was the year where, when that game had been going about 18 months, nobody saw him in live poker at all, and like tournaments and stuff. And he just bowled up in Vegas and bought into the one drop.
That's right. Yeah.
And people are like, oh, okay. Yeah, I'm just playing one tournament this year. Yeah, I don't really fancy any other tournaments. They're a bit small for me. That was quite funny.
Speaking of cheating over in the UK, there was a big case this week, and we talked about it earlier in the show. A poker player named Darren Woods was sentenced to some jail time for multi-accounting and cheating affiliates cheating through the affiliate system of online poker sites. I'm wondering, obviously that's got to put the scare into a lot of people over there that might have been doing things for the last couple of years that now, these sites, some of these sites that have this precedent, plus they have information about people that might still be there and might have, done some things. I would imagine there might be a couple of or three people scared over there at the moment.
Well, I mean, obviously I hope so. If people are doing, colluding in any kind of big scale or anything like that, I hope the sites are taking it seriously. This site was 888 mostly this guy played on, but I'm kind of feeling like the only reason that we ever saw this case in court was because 888 got ripped off. The guy was, although he was like doing stuff like, having control of 4 accounts that were sitting down in the same short-handed Omaha game. The main reason that the court case came about was because those 4 accounts were all recommended to 888 by the same affiliate that turned out to be like his uncle or something. I can't remember. It was kind of ridiculous because I think my understanding of it was that all the situations where there were collusion, all the people that were suspected were all recommended by the same guy to open an account on the same affiliate deal. So, it kind of linked them all up via that. I don't think he was the smartest criminal, but I didn't really know him, and I haven't followed all the details. So I don't want to, even though he's in prison, he probably deserves it. I don't want to badmouth the man too much. I don't know exactly how much he's done, but I think, obviously, I would like to think that all the sites take multi-accounting and stuff like that pretty seriously. I think they do as well, but maybe not so much some of those smaller ones. But I don't know. It's funny because it's not that funny, but there's been a succession of high-profile poker imprisonments actually recently. We had there was this guy Achilles Kalakis who went to prison about a year ago. That case had dragged on for a while. He was someone that was playing all the TV poker stuff, and people kind of, talked about where he got his money from, and he seemed to be some kind of massive property investor, and then it turned out to all be based on a fraud where he mortgaged the same one-bedroom flat 83 times or something. Ended up buying Buckingham Palace or something. I don't know. He started off with a very small property, got a lot of mortgages, and ended up with owning 50 million worth of property in London or something. And then there was another guy, an airline pilot that used to come to Vegas. He was quite well known in the Bellagio, Mark the pilot. He used to come and play 25, 50 and 50, 100 PLO and stuff. And I'm sure anybody that's played those games in the Bellagio in the last 3 or 4 years will remember him. He was a bit of a crazy guy. People used to just call him the pilot. He used to be a Virgin Atlantic pilot. But him and a couple of other people, they got some kind of fund together to buy some properties, and they got some investors. They told the investors they needed to have the deeds of their house so that as collateral, and then they took out mortgages on their properties multiple times. They got like 40 million or something out of it. All of the investors lost their houses, and they said they spent all the money and now they're in prison. But he was a real regular in all the London games. I can remember as much as like 8 years ago, people saying, "Geez, you've got to play tomorrow. This guy's going to be there. Where does he get his money from? He's crazy. He went all in blind for $5,000. He was drunk. He didn't even care." And now we know it, I guess. I think somebody told me Sammy George is in prison as well. The whole of everyone that was popping up the games in London has gone to prison now.
No wonder why there's no games going. Yeah,
exactly.
You mentioned poker on TV, and in Europe, there's always been a long history, of course, going all the way back to late night poker, of poker and TV on Sky and on different channels there on the cable. Give us a rundown of what's happening there. We over here get the repeats of the party poker game all the time, but I'm not sure that Party's too involved with that.
You still get that? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Party, you're famous in Canada. It's shown all the time.
Unbelievable. Party poker. Obviously, they're not really. They kind of got out of that side of it now. They don't want to spend the money. Basically, a lot of it comes down to the Hearn family, the Matchroom. So Barry Hearn, who was a great guy that was a sports promoter, and his son Eddie, they basically took a big gamble in saying to Sky, "Look, we'll make programs for you. We'll lay on sporting events and turn them into TV if you just give us the spots on your channel." And we'll pay all the production costs and organise all the players and all that kind of thing. And poker was a brilliant thing because it takes a long time and it fills up lots of channels, and it was very popular. But I think they kind of started to see that it wasn't as popular a couple of years ago. And as Barry was kind of starting to kind of slow down and do less and give Eddie more responsibility in the business, Eddie switched to kind of doing boxing. And he's become mega now as a boxing promoter. He's like the biggest boxing promoter in the world. And he lost interest in poker, really. So they're not really making any new poker tournaments. I don't think they've made one for at least 2 years. Partly because of party poker not putting the money in. Stars, obviously, we get to see EPT and stuff on TV. But the smaller tours, the UK IPT is not on TV anymore. So that's not really on so much. So, there's smaller stuff on. I've just signed up. I might as well get my plug in now. I've signed up with Sky Poker, which is obviously part of the Murdoch empire. They have a poker site. It's standalone. It's not part of a network or anything like that. They have their own software. It's always been quite small and recreational, but obviously they're connected with Sky TV, so they want to make TV programs. They have a TV channel that shows poker, and they do occasionally make content. So I've played in a few things like that. Well, not just because of I only just recently signed with them, but for 2 years or so now, I've played in a few things. They've had a few cash games, quite small, like 5, 10. And because it's Sky TV and we've got access to like sports stars and stuff, they get some quite nice sports stars along, people that are really quite novice-y to poker. And we've sat and played like 5, 10 with ex-jockeys and darts players and snooker players and footballers and stuff. And it's good fun. It's nice to meet a lot of interesting people. Didn't really win much money, but, it's not all about money, is it, every time? Well, it's been good. Those things are quite good. They show that quite a lot over here. And, it's quite nice. I just did one actually recently, the Aspers, where the Olympics were, where they have the big kind of Vegas-style casino there. They decided to put on a streamed cash game, streamed on the internet. It was sponsored by Bluff Europe and Unibet Poker. And they invited some sports stars, and Teddy Sheringham played, and Thomas Brolin, and a couple of them. I don't know, there was another footballer, I can't remember who it was now.
Well, there was an ex-NHL player in that game that we were watching over here.
Everybody said he was super famous. Obviously, I had no idea who he was. But he seemed like a really nice guy. I was a Finnish guy.
Esa Tikkanen, he's fantastic. Always got a smile on his face. Always speaking a language only he understands. But a lot of fun. I was actually... What's that?
He seemed very chilled, very relaxed. And then I read on a popular poker forum, it was on 2+2, that he said he was completely stoned throughout the game. I didn't really notice that particularly.
Really?
He did seem quite relaxed, I guess. I thought it was mostly because he was winning. He won every hand, really.
We played every hand, so that was the good part.
Well, Isildur was in the game, and Isildur actually ran like shit for 3 days, but Isildur got it all in against him with kings. This is a 5-10 game. They both put maybe $5,000 in pre-flop.
Wow.
Isildur had kings, and he had ace-king. Actually, he may have had aces. It was either aces or kings, and the other guy had the ice hockey guy had ace-king, and he won that one.
He banked it.
So... I wonder he was relaxed.
I was watching a hand with Tikkanen and Teddy Sheringham, and I'm still shaking my head at the laydown that Teddy made. He's got the nuts on the has got the nuts on the river. He's got Broadway, and if I remember correctly, Sheringham has a set, and just kind of takes a minute and just mucks it or something. Or no, he had Queen 9 on the King. Jack 10 board. This is Teddy, and Essa had ace queen, and he just kind of there was a big bet by Essa. I think
I was on the table when that happened, and I wondered what he laid down there. It took a long time over that. I remember that, but I mean, Teddy's got a reputation for being pretty tight, but actually I just think he's really good. Like every time I play with him, he plays really well, and he was playing in that big Les Ambassadors game. In fact, they kicked him out of it because he was too good. All the stars in the game said that he was winning way too much. But he comes and plays in the bigger games around London quite often, and he's I don't know. I mean, I think sports people underestimate them. Don't they? They tend to think, because they've got a lot of money and time on their hands, that they're just going to be easy money. And obviously, I've been to Vegas when occasionally some crazy, NFL guy or a boxer or something sits down and they just throw money around. But I think when they make the decision that this is what they want to do now, and they're not just doing it because they're on a week's vacation or something, they have all the attributes that top sports people have. They're very competitive. They want to improve. They don't like losing. And those things are, conducive to winning money at poker generally, I think.
Neil, we had a debate on this show, Terrence and I. Well, it wasn't much of a debate because we're in agreement, but we had Alex Dreyfus of the GPI on the show after we talked about it, and it's about poker award shows, and one of the things that I said in the new year I wanted to see less of was these poker award shows with sort of vague awards that you can't really quantify, etc. And I see you're nominated for one of these, which is your best social media user in the European Poker Awards. What do you make of all these award shows?
Well, this one's actually the British Poker
Sorry,
Awards.
British.
So it's I think it's part of the charter of the British Poker Awards that you can't have a whole year of British Poker Awards without me getting something. And I basically win something in it every year, but I used to win things for playing poker better than the other people, and now I just win it for having the nicest shirt or something like that, or having the best table manners or something. I don't know. I think I had best blogger last year, and during the speech I pointed out that I hadn't actually written a blog the whole year, which I think that kind of upset them because I was slightly taking the piss out of the whole process. But so they didn't put me into best blogger, which is good because I haven't written a blog this year either. But the main reason I haven't written any blogs is because damn social media, it takes up all your time, doesn't it? And when you tweet stuff, you kind of feel like, well, I've said it now, so I don't really need to blog about it.
Yeah.
So
I've been saying this for years. It's kind of the death of long-form proper writing.
It killed it, yeah. I think you're right. And I'm going to get back to blogging. I prefer blogging in some ways. I'm from the social media point of view, I'm a retweeter. I discovered long ago, or I came up with this idea that if I just retweet things, if people don't agree with me, so obviously if I retweet something saying, I don't know, we shouldn't build pipelines across the Antarctic, If somebody really disagrees with that, then they just go and argue with the person who tweeted it in the first place.
And you don't get in the argument. It's perfect.
And they might like at me into it so that I can see they're having an argument with that person. But it's like they don't take it personally that I espoused the view because I was really just repeating someone else's view. So I can tweet things that indicate my view on various things, but people don't attribute them to me so much. So I think, I don't know, I seem to get a lot less shit by retweeting them. I'm sure if I just like wrote every tweet out again as my opinion, I would just get into arguments all day long, and that would be the end of life. Then I'm starting to think that this on Twitter as it is.
Yeah, I'm starting to think that this best social media user is actually savviest social media user because you stumbled upon a formula. Like you stumbled upon this great formula where you get to say whatever you want, but nobody gets to be offended.
Well, I give it quite a lot of thought. The old retweeting. I retweet thematically, so I tend to do 3 at a time so that I don't block up people's timeline too much at one go. And I'll sort of like, when I wake up, I'll do like a few fairly easy to understand jokey things that are not going to tax anyone's brain while they're having breakfast or they haven't woken up properly. And then I'll normally do a few current affairs things. Then like mid-morning I'll do a few, like I have a lot of racing followers, horse racing people. So I might do some kind of racing stuff because most of those people I think you might get their bets on about 11 o'clock.
I honestly think this is pretty amazing because you've managed to now win the best blogger award without blogging, and it seems like you're going to win the best social media user.
Never having an original idea. Yeah.
This is amazing.
Actually, well, I don't know whether I'm going to win it. Listen to the other people in it. Do you think have I got a shot here? Liv Marie. Okay, so if I want to compete with Liv, I need to. Maybe I should start doing the topless shots. Like, she's not really doing that, but she does a few bikini shots and stuff. That's going to help her, I think, against me. In a battle between the two of us, I think that will win out, I think. Sam Grafton, I mean, he's hysterical. He's a very funny guy. But he's also up for Best Blogger, and he's up for something else as well, Poker Personality. So they're not going to let him win everything, are they? I mean, they've got to feel sorry for an old guy. I think I can beat him. Vicky is up for Best Social Media, and she's got like a gazillion Twitter followers. So if she could just wipe me out in one go, all she needs to do is just tweet, "Will you vote for me?" And then that's it. Like more people than I've ever heard of.
Well, you could retweet that, though.
Click on. Oh, that's a good idea. I had there. You see, now you're thinking. I like the way you're thinking. And maybe I should just text her and say, please don't tell, why don't you try and win Poker Personality and don't tell them to vote for you in Best Social Media. I'll have a think about that. The other person I'd quite like to see win is Dale Phillip because I think he was really harshly treated last year.
Yeah.
And I actually really like his blogs. And I think obviously now he's not doing Pokerstars anymore. He still writes them. Like, it's not... They were a labour of love. He wasn't just doing them because of his contract or whatever. And I actually think he writes really well, and they're really funny, and he puts lots of pictures in. And they treated him really badly. If I wasn't in that category, I would definitely tweet to everybody to vote for Dale Phillip. But seeing as I am, fuck him. I hope he loses.
You don't know how ecstatic I was to bring you on this week, Neil, because I'm surrounded by Ross and Terrence, who don't really follow the hand egg as much as I do, and it was driving me crazy not to talk about this thing. I think this Seattle Green Bay game from last Sunday, and I know how involved with sports watching and betting that you are, that had to be the worst coached game in the history of the NFL. Do you agree with me?
Oh, yeah. I was thinking whether it was like the worst bad beat ever, actually, for the series of things that had to happen for them to win that game. But definitely for sure. From a poker player's point of view, like any poker player has any professional poker player is going to have a better understanding of strategy than your average NFL coach.
That's amazing, right? I mean, that's just absolutely amazing. There's 30 coaches, NHL or NFL coaches in the world, and not one of them has a clue about game theory and any. I mean,
they don't. But it's not just they don't have a clue; they don't want to have a clue.
Right?
Like when people tell them on Twitter, "Well, do you realize that by doing that, you effectively cost yourself, 1.2 points in the long run over the season? That's going to cost you, 1.5 wins or something or other by making that decision on fourth down." Not specifically things in that game, but just in general, I've seen people point out stuff like that, and they just come back with, when did you ever coach NFL? And I'm just I feel like, I do a lot of horse racing betting, and I'm involved in horse racing quite a bit, and it's a common thing whenever jockeys get criticised, they just come back and say, how many winners have you ridden?
Yeah.
I've been watching horse racing for 45 years. I don't need to. Well, maybe not 45 years, close to. Feels like it anyway sometimes. I'm capable of seeing someone making a mistake without being able to ride a horse that well myself, and it just seems mad to me. Considering how much money is involved in the sport, and also how many people are standing around on the sidelines, like doing nothing, like deflating footballs and whatever they're doing, but. Just to have one extra guy on the payroll that just comes on Sundays and stands there and just speaks up like twice a game to say, you should go for it on fourth here, or, you should go for the 2-point conversion. Or basically, actually what they could do, all they really need to do is just have somebody on the sideline with the TV coverage on, and just do the opposite of whatever
whatever Troy Aikman says, do the opposite. Exactly.
Yeah. The commentators are so conservative; it's ridiculous. I mean, I can understand the coaches being conservative because obviously, if they get it wrong, they feel like the crowd will be on them and they'll get fired. And I can understand the owners being conservative because they're generally older people, and they may not be like so much into kind of the maths of the game. But why should the commentators be so conservative? It's not like they're going to get the sack for saying go for it on fourth down and it doesn't work out or something.
Yeah.
That just seems crazy. I don't know. I don't understand that.
The most amazing thing from that game for me, and this will tell you how bad a job that Mike McCarthy did coaching for Green Bay, is Pete Carroll is down 16-0 and late in the third quarter. He gets a touchdown. On a completely blown coverage by Mike McCarthy. You're up 16-0 in the third quarter. The other team's kicking a field goal. You let them kick the field goal. You don't sell out to try and block it. Meanwhile, give up the fake for a touchdown that Seattle was waiting. Anyway, that's a different altogether. Yeah. But they end up going for it. They get the touchdown. Pete Carroll does. They're down 16. Instead of going for 2, he kicks the extra point, and now is still down 2 scores. And he was the best coach in the game by far.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it's just the whole thing is just mental. I mean, like they were going for it, running on first and second to try and take time off the clock from the second quarter. I mean, they were only winning 16-0. It's not like they were 30 points up.
Well, and you have the best quarterback in the game. He's on a bad leg, but he's still fine. He's there doing fine. Yeah, it's
the week before he had good numbers, and he probably was less mobile. So and prevent defense in those situations is just, as a gambler, I just hate that. It's just like I'm just like, okay, you're just gonna let them score on you.
Yeah, indeed.
And they don't seem to understand that the game has changed in terms of the speed at which teams can score now as well. Like a lot of the teams don't seem to understand that anymore.
You do write some betting advice on bettingemporium.com.
Well done. I like the way you got that in. That's excellent.
Snuck that one
me
in
and
there.
Mr. Beavers started that. Joe Beavers. Basically, when they flogged the Hendon Mob, he just said to me, well, I've got this massive database of people that like gambling, and I think we should do something to try and encourage them to do some gambling.
Yeah.
Luckily, they don't need encouragement to gamble. These people, they like gambling. So no, we started a tipping site, and we have some affiliate stuff going on with it, and it's going quite well, really. I actually find myself working way too hard on it on the NFL. I'd probably put about 20 hours a week into NFL on there. Which I don't know. I don't know whether I want to do that next year. Actually, I love the NFL, and I'll probably still spend the 20 hours a week, but. Writing down everything you think about the NFL during a week really takes a long time.
I can imagine.
And it just means you can't have a week off of it as well. I had a couple of weeks in November where I was losing quite badly, and like 3 weeks running. And sometimes I might have just thought, well, I'll just have a quiet week and maybe just bet 2 games or something. But when you've got lots of people wanting to know what you're going to do, you kind of have to keep plowing on. So. But we've turned it around, and we're having a really good playoff. So, hopefully, touch wood, the Super Bowl will be good.
We do have Seattle and New England in the final, in the Super Bowl, coming up next weekend. I saw your press or the blog, I think, or tweet, I can't remember, where I saw that you were doing some props. You were going to talk about some of the props, of course, at the Super Bowl. We've always got
actually, I love the props. Was it 2 years ago in Australia we sat and watched the Super Bowl together?
Yeah.
I can't remember now.
Yeah.
Was that 2 years ago? That was the Patriots. No, it was San Francisco, wasn't it?
I believe.
Oh my God. Yeah. That seems a long time ago. I haven't really done too much on props yet because the UK bookmakers need to take time to copy, basically. They never come up with anything original, and they're waiting for offshore people to come up with stuff. So I haven't done too much. I did write a blog today about how the market's moved. I think it's quite interesting that the line with Pinnacle immediately post the NFC game and prior to the start of the AFC game was Seattle by 3 if they were playing New England. And it stayed like that until the end of midway through the second quarter. And then as New England started to pile up the points, people were starting to think, well, we better bet New England. They're going to win easily here, and they look quite impressive and stuff. I just feel like it's a bit of an overreaction, really. Like, New England are a solid, 1.5 point, edging towards 1.5 point favourite now. And prior to that game, Pinnacle, who are presumably the smartest bookmakers in the world, and definitely the ones handling the most money, thought that they were a 3-point underdog prior to the AFC Championship game. Well, what did we really see in the AFC Championship game that moved the Super Bowl line 4.5 points? I don't know. I mean, obviously New England were impressive. Seattle were a bit disappointing. Richard Sherman's slightly injured. Tom Brady's a fashionable, sexy kind of player that scores points, and New England were able to score quickly, and defense is more boring to recreational gamblers than offense. I can understand all of those things, but it just looks like recency bias and overreaction. So my feeling is that will continue, and the market will move further towards the Patriots, and then I think Billy Walters bet Seattle last year in exactly the same situation. The money all came for Denver, who were very much the same kind of team.
Right.
And they went from pick-em to 2-point favorite. And then the syndicates, and particularly the Billy Walters crew, but other syndicates as well came in and took Seattle +2. And I don't see why that won't happen again this year. I'm kind of thinking that the money will all go for the recreational money will all go for New England. It'll nudge up and nudge up and nudge up, and then eventually the syndicates will say, "Well, it's not going to get any higher. Let's go and back Seattle."
And who do you like in the game?
I don't know, really. I bet Seattle last year. I said all of that last year, and I bet Seattle. This year, I'm saying all that, but I'm not loving the idea of rushing to back Seattle. I think of the two main markets, I'd rather just bet the under, really, than have a side.
Totals 48 on
Pinnacle.
Pinnacle.
Nudged down a little bit. Yeah, it's nudged down from 49, some 49.5 down to 48. You can still get bits and pieces of 48.5, which is okay. I mean, 48 is a pretty key number in NFL totals. Not super key, but if it just comes up about 3% of the time. I'd go under 48.5 if I had a bet right now. But I'd probably end up having like 10 or 12 prop bets and not taking a side. That's a bit boring, isn't it? I should take a side.
My favorite prop bet that I've seen while looking at this was Bovada has who will the Super Bowl MVP mention first in his interview.
Yeah, those are good.
You can bet teammates at 3-2, God at 5-1, the fans or the city at 15-2.
5-1
yeah, I think
on
that
God.
seems like tremendous value.
All the Seattle players mentioned God off.
So is that an officially sanctioned pick? So if you can get God at 5-1 in the MVP interview, then that's value.
They don't, actually, those kind of ones they don't really have so much in England. Or the bookmakers that do those kind of ones over here, they're very, very small limits. Although you can get quite big money on the length of the national anthem. That's normally I had quite a big bet on that a couple of years ago. I saw a video of this woman singing the national anthem yesterday. I was watching, but. I think it's the only one on YouTube of that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
2 minutes and 5 seconds is the current over/under on the national anthem time.
I'm gonna have another look at that. There was the one I did see one. I thought Brady at 2-1 to be MVP was kind of long. I mean, they're going to. It's roughly a pick'em game. Apart from Gronkowski, it's hard to see them giving it to any other Patriot.
Yeah, no question. Right now, the Patriots are minus 107. It's pick, and Patriots minus 107. Seattle minus 103 on Pinnacle. So it's darn near pick 'em at this point.
Yeah, so 2-1 Brady. I don't know. I just thought he'd have been closer to like 6-4 or something like that. Yeah, maybe I might look at that.
Neil, we want a little bit of fun here. We do this game called Stripper Trivia. I'm hoping you'll be up for it. Terrence and I. We do a little gambling on this to see. One of us sets a line, the other one takes the over/under on these 4 general knowledge questions. It might be a bit of fun. You up for it?
Yeah, sure. Is it similar to Loddon Thinks in some way?
Well, a little. We have these 4 standard questions that we ask, and we'll bet.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much how Antonio worked that game. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
There's 4 standard questions.
Terrence, you want to set a line?
I don't know.
I'll set the line just because you're buried as always and you're terrible at this. I'm going to make it 3.
You're going to set the line at 3. Wow, that's a fantastic.
Neil's a sharp man.
So. I can't.
So Terrence, you're saying that you think I'm going to get 3 of these right? Are they yes/no kind of thing?
No, they're not.
No, they're 3 out of 4, and they're open-ended questions.
That's a great line because I have to. If I take the over, he's got to run the table, and so now you're forcing me to bet under. I'll take the under. We'll do it for what, 50T?
Sure.
Okay, we got the under. You want to go? You want to go first with them?
Sure. We'll start them off with the traditionally considered the easiest one. No pressure at all. But so, how many sides, Neil, are in a hexagon?
Oh, okay. Hexagon. Hexagon is a 5-sided kind of thing. Or is that a pentagon? No, hang on. Let me think for a second. So we got let me just square is definitely 4. Pentagon is 5.
You got square.
Hexagon. I'm going to say 6.
Wow. He almost had it right. No, that's right. He almost said 5 off the top.
I thought it was 8. Oh, my bad.
That's correct.
What?
8 is oxygen. 8 is oxygen.
Okay, we should ask Ross. Yeah, get away from the buzzer, please. That is correct, sir.
I had you worried for a minute, though, with the pentagon.
You did. No, you had me hoping. I'm the guy. I got the under.
I was sweating.
What chemical symbol is abbreviated to Fe from the table of the elements? Fe.
Okay, I think I know this one. Fe, as far as I know, is iron.
That's correct.
That is correct. 2 for 2. I'm in trouble. T, you want to go next?
Yes. Okay. So in World War II, can you name? Go ahead.
I might be right here. I follow this Twitter handle, Real World War II.
I love that.
I'm dead. Yes.
It's brilliant. It's a historian who tweets World War II in real time.
Oh, that's cool. What is it? The Twitter handle?
It's called Real World War II. I should try and go and look at what the actual handle is. I think it's at Real WW11, but I'll dig it out anyway. But it's they put up like 5 tweets a day. And
that's awesome.
1942, so they've been doing it for 3 years. It's amazing.
Cool.
It's absolutely amazing. I love it. Anyway, sorry, go on.
The handle is real time WW2, but the 2 is Roman numerals. So if you were typing it in, it'd be real time WWII.
That's it. That's it. Yeah.
So with that said,
there's another guy doing the First World War that's not so good, but this Second World War guy is brilliant. Anyway, sorry, go on.
So with that said, I'm about to just lob one softly
comes an underhanded softball that you can just knock out of the park.
Yeah, I got no shot at this question.
So other people get this wrong quite frequently, but can you name the 3 Axis powers from World War II?
Okay, so we have Italy, Japan, and Germany. Hang on. Don't hold me on this now, because no. Japan was not, maybe Japan wasn't an Axis power. Maybe Austria or Hungary come in here. No, I'm going to go with what I said: Italy, Japan, and Germany.
You are correct, sir.
Oh God, he's giving me a heart attack on every one. He says this time he said the wrong answer first.
He's almost talking
and
himself
changed the right answer. This one he almost changed the right answer.
I was thinking, because obviously
World War I.
Yeah,
you're thinking Austria-Hungary was from World War I.
No, because Austria, became annexed into Germany and Anschluss and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
And
prior to the start of World War II.
And I wasn't really sure whether I don't know. I had a feeling that Japan had a different relationship and they had a different name. I don't know why I thought that. Anyway,
is he going to be the first man to sweep stripper trivia?
Really? Oh my
More
God.
importantly,
I'm feeling under pressure.
Terrence is free roll.
I'm feeling a bit under pressure now.
All right, so the final question is: name the planets from the sun out.
Okay, I was probably going to be able to do this one. It would have been funny if the last question was the wing velocity of the
unladen swallow.
Yeah.
African or European?
That would have to be the correct answer.
I was half expecting that. I was
what
say African
is your
European.
favorite color? Blue. No.
Okay, so we're going to go with Mercury, and then we go out a little bit to Venus. Then from Venus we get to Earth. Then we mosey on down to Mars.
Love this.
He's making me. He's punishing me the whole with. He's not just answering them. He's giving he's rubbing it in now. Is what he's doing.
The other side of Mars, not very far from there, is a short bus ride, is Neptune. Then we get to Saturn. Then we get to Uranus, and actually then we're done because Pluto is no longer a planet. They discovered that it's just some kind of massive stuff, and there's loads of them. It's not really a planet.
I believe I believe you're incorrect.
Oh, did I get? Oh,
you jumped the gun on Neptune. You broke my heart.
Neptune's the other side of Saturn, isn't it?
As I
was saying,
it's the last one. You broke my heart.
It's between Saturn and Uranus, Neptune, and I said it the wrong way around.
I'm just so happy right now. You have no idea how happy.
I'm so depressed about that.
Well, you owe Terrence 50 is what happened.
I can't believe I got that wrong.
You got 3 for 4.
I went there as well. No, it's terrible. I'll never be allowed back on Neptune.
Indeed. Neil, thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate it, sir. And we will talk to you soon.
Yeah, you made me stay up until 5 in the morning.
You were going to stay up anyway. The tennis is on. What else were you going to do?
No, I need to get sleep. There's horses to do at 10 a.m., so I've got to get some sleep.
All right.
It's been good talking to you guys, and I'll see you in the summer, if not before.
Fantastic. Thank you, sir.
All right, cheers.
Damn, that was close, T. He made me sweat, and I
But that was probably the most entertaining stripper trivia we've had.
Nobody gets Neptune in that order. That's the weirdest Neptune I've ever heard.
And it was, I think we interrupted his flow.
I did?
Yeah.
Expert interrupting there,
because he was 5 for 5. He was like Mars, Jupiter. Then we opened our big fat mouths, and then he jumps from Jupiter to Neptune. I think it's like pass interference, keeping with the football theme of the league.
Right.
But
that's right.
That's all right. I didn't lose money at least.
Roscoe's falling asleep at the wheel. By the way, I don't know what he's doing.
How does he? Yeah,
I mean, there's all kinds of drops available. There was the darts drop he missed, the 180. I mean, I don't know about this guy.
Well. People have complained about playing drops over guests in my defense, but I did think of this when you mentioned Roland.
I just didn't want to see a hobgoblin on the floor. So 2 elves, it comes hobgoblin. So sick.
That's the other one I was thinking. Where's Roscoe? He's got. we have a Roland. That's a long one.
He brings up a point that the guests can't hear the drops,
right?
And neither can I actually due to our setup. So it is a tough one always to play. So I'll give Ross a pass on that one.
But the 180
not knowing
is
how many sides in a hexagon when we've asked that question on the show at least.
And I did get that one right when you asked me.
Yeah, now you thought it was Octo. I love it. That's fantastic. All right, that was our interview segment for the weekend.
Right, and Octagon's so simple since I'm looking at a picture of Terrence as an MMA fighter on my Skype, and Octagon, I should put the pieces together.
Yes, indeed. Anyway, we are going to come back after the break. We are going to go to the Isle of Man and talk to Brian, Pokerstars Brian, who's running the TCOOP that's upcoming. We got a strategy minute this week.
Yes, I know it this time.
What is
it? Is about check calling the river for value.
Check calling the river for value. This is the strategy minute from Crush Live Poker, Bart Hansen's website. Take us out, Bart, and we will talk to you on the other side. This is the 2+2 Pokercast, presented by the Pokerstars VIP Club. More right after this.
Hey guys, welcome to CrushLivePoker.com's presentation of the 2+2 Strategy Minute. I'm Bart Hansen, and today I want to talk about check calling on the river in no-limit games. I absolutely hate check calling on the river in no-limit games, and there's a few reasons why. Number one, really, there's only two big reasons why to do it. The first being to induce a bluff. If we think our opponent has missed a draw, sometimes we can check, let them bet, and call, because they've missed something. Number two is what we call value own, and that's allowing your opponent to value bet a hand that they would otherwise fold if you were to bet. The biggest problems with these two plays is that in live poker, first of all, people don't bluff enough. If you have shown a bunch of action throughout the hand through c-betting the flop and betting the turn, usually people aren't going to just all of a sudden bluff at the end. Number two, with value owning, players don't value bet thinly enough. And for the most part, you should be value betting your own hand. So when you have a big hand like a set, and a scare card comes at the end like a flush completing card or a straight completing card, it's going to be a lot better for you to bet and then fold to a raise than for you to check and then call. Because again, people don't value bet thinly enough. So remember, if you find yourself check calling on the river too much, you're probably making a mistake. Now let's get back to the Pokercast.
Hey folks, don't forget to follow the Pokercast crew on Twitter. Adam is at PokercastAdam, and he'll keep you up to date on things like upcoming guests, listener contests, and all the latest bacon-related food innovations. Follow Ross at PokercastRoss, and you'll discover new hip-hop bands and learn how to not play micro-stakes no limit. Also, give us a like on Facebook, where we post lots of photos and other nonsense.
I defend 8-9 offsuit versus a middle position open with annies, 40 big blinds deep. I flop a double gutter on queen 10-6 2 spades. and I like to check raise his c-bet as it's my worst possible draw in this situation, and his range contains more spades, thus making it a hand I'm going to free barrel on a lot of runouts. He folds to a check raise and I win the pot.
Team Pro Online's Mickey Moment Mori Peterson is a Supernova VIP. This is the 2+2 Pokercast, presented by the Pokerstars VIP Club.
Hey, it's Mike from the 2+2 store and ProfessionalPoker.com. 2+2 is pleased to announce the release of their most anticipated book in ages, Applications of No Limit Hold'em, a guide to understanding theoretical sound poker by Matthew Jonda. This book will give you the ability to create the bet sizings and ranges which will beat the better players. The theory in this book is not designed to be complex or abstract, but rather it's intended to be applied immediately, producing better overall results. Many confusing concepts, such as overbetting, balancing multiple bet sizing ranges, donk betting, and check raising as a pre-flop raiser, are crucial to a player's strategy, despite few players implementing them or talking about them. And after reading this book, you should be able to not only conceptually understand these ideas, but also know how to begin incorporating them into your game, and thereby successfully compete against tough opponents. And at the 2+2 store, we accept all credit cards, plus PayPal and NetTeller.
Hey, this is Team PokerStars Pro Jonathan Zuamel. Poker's richest low-stake championship is PokerStars Micro Million. Massive tournaments, small buy-ins. Hope you're enjoying the 2+2 Pokercast presented by the PokerStars VIP Club.
Hey everybody, I want to tell you about Crush Live call-ins this week over at crushlivepoker.com. My guest will be poker tax accountant Russ Fox. We are going to talk all about gambling taxation. That's right. This Sunday, January 25th, and you can call in live at 323-825-5134. That's over at crushlivepoker.com, and it is always free to listen to live.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Welcome back, everybody, to the 2+2 Pokercast presented by the PokerStars VIP Club. Terrence, we've got some more in case you missed it stuff to get to. Then we're going to go talk to Brian S. from PokerStars to talk about the upcoming TCOOP. So let's get to some of that stuff. Did you catch this, Terrence? Faraz Jacka was featured on the CNN Money program.
I did. Yeah, very cool.
It's really cool because he didn't just get like this video interview of him on CNN. He also got a written piece, which was pretty cool and huge.
I haven't
exposure.
read that part yet. I saw the video piece, and it was one of these clickbaity headlines that I always rail about, because it was like millionaire poker player says he's homeless now or something like that. But you could see in the thumbnail that it's Faraz, and it's going to be an interesting story because it's not like it's not what most people would click on that and think of it as like some guy who's destitute or whatever. It's clearly not.
Right, because it said this guy has won, the headline was, this man's won millions of dollars playing poker tournaments and he's homeless.
I told you online poker was rigged.
Yeah, that's right. You're going to get that. You're going to get he blew all his money in the pit, etc. But of course, that's not what's going on with Faraz. But interesting story. I really enjoyed it. I'm sort of jealous of his ability to just have absolutely zero accumulated things, crap, things that bring you down. He's got a backpack and he's got his little, pulley thing that he checks, or he doesn't have to check his luggage. He puts it in
to set the table a little bit, I guess. Faraz basically said, like, hey, I was playing, I think it was somewhere in Europe, and some guy invited me to crash on his couch, and so I took him up on it, and it was fun. So basically that's what I do now, is I go and I just, I crash on people's houses, not in, like, make it sounds better than it is, but he goes to, like he's not staying in 5-star hotels, even though he could afford it. What he's doing is, he's crashing with people and hanging out with them and exploring new cities, living out of, like you said, like one kind of small suitcase, not, worrying too much about possessions, not getting caught up in the possession accumulation game that so many people these days are caught up with, and not just not having a fixed address, and kind of just living it out there, seeing as many places as he can, meeting as many people as he can. So he's somebody who seems to have taken this money and done good things with it, I guess.
One of the things he said was he spent 10 days in a Buddhist monastery, meditating 12 hours a day. He didn't speak for 10 days. I was thinking, the first thing I thought about, of course, was, could I do that? Could I just unplug for 10 days and not speak? And I don't know, could you do it, T?
Well, it's one of these things where when you put it that way and you think about it, you're like, oh my God, I could never, not speak for 10 days or do nothing but get up and meditate and walk and eat and all that kind of stuff. But I think when you're in this, it's one of these things where when you're in the situation, like once you've already decided that this is a thing that you're going to do, it's probably not that hard, because I've never heard of anybody, he's not the first person I've heard of that's done this, that's gone to meditation retreat for 5-10 days and not said a word, or just, maybe they meditate, or maybe they only chant for 8 hours a day. And I've never heard of anybody again saying, yeah, on the third day I just cracked and I freaked out and I ran down the mountain and I just like got out of my robes and all that stuff. So I think, if you're the kind of person, like if you commit to do it and you're the type of person willing to do it, you probably can do it. And if you're there and you're already in that situation, then, I'm certainly the kind of person that, like, if I've decided that this is the challenge that I'm going to do, then I'm going to do it, right? Like, for example, like I love coffee, but if I've decided I'm just going to go 4 days without coffee just for the hell of it, I'm just going to stick it out and I'm going to commit to it. So, because it's a challenge and you can set that for yourself. But I really don't think the meditation is that hard. I mean, a lot of really high performing people meditate and they use it and it's really important to them. And what Faraz mentioned and is typical of people who have done this kind of stuff is that it's definitely changed his life for the better, and it's worked out quite well for him. So, I mean, it's, I've very rarely heard of like anybody saying like, yeah, I did this and it sucked and it was terrible. So, so good. It seems that he's gotten some benefit out of it. Probably doesn't hurt his poker game either.
No, I'm sure it doesn't. Like I said, I'm jealous. I wish I could declutterify my life. I have to talk my wife into having a giant garage sale. Maybe that'll happen.
There's two aspects of the whole story, right? There's one that's the possessions aspects, and two the sort of travel and unencumbered aspect of it. And obviously, if you have a wife and kids as you do, Adam, then it's kind of irresponsible to just like leave them and go travel the world and just never and be like, oh yeah, it's kids, I'll see you in like 40 days or so. Like that's not something you can do as a person with a family. The other aspect of it, though, the freeing yourself of possessions, that is something you can do. That's not hard. I mean, we all have some form of spring cleaning or another, and this is sort of a more extreme form of it, is just to look at every piece of it and like, do I need this? No, okay, get rid of it, and see if you can cram all your stuff into one closet instead of 5.
Yeah, no question. My garage is the problem. Hopefully I get to it in the spring. But did you see this? In case you missed it, Gus Hansen did not a long interview. It was a short one. They broke it up into a couple of segments to try and get some viewership. But he did an interview with, I believe it was a Dutch poker site who asked him, he had, since he's kind of crossed that $20 million in lifetime online losses, being dropped by or ending his relationship with Full Tilt. I'm not exactly sure which way that went. It's not really that important. But they asked him about his losses. They asked him about his tilt factor, that kind of thing. And he said, quote, my table selection is the worst ever. My tilt factor is about the worst in the world. And my stubbornness is about the worst. Which, I thought was pretty cool. I mean, I always knew that Gus was that type of person wouldn't shy away from what's obvious. And he's, he doesn't seem to have much of an ego when I've had any kind of encounters with the guy. He's always been fantastic. And it doesn't surprise me that he would say stuff like this, but it still does, kind of take you back a little bit of the honesty of somebody in that position.
So it's interesting that you kind of read this, and I didn't read the original article. I'm sort of going off of what you said. So, for those like me, maybe we'll throw this up in the.
It's a video.
In the show
it's not an article. It's a video interview. Yeah.
Sorry. So yeah, we should link this up. But just going off of the quotes that you just mentioned, for me, it almost kind of seems like sad or self-reflective. And you would know better than me because it's a video what kind of tone of voice he said it in, as opposed to just saying it in if you're just saying it in like a neutral voice, or if you're saying it in a sad way. I mean, I have to imagine there's at least a little bit of regret anytime you lose $20 million. I mean, I thought I dropped like $2,000 in my pocket yesterday, and I freaked the hell out.
Yeah.
So I can only imagine. I cannot imagine what losing $20 million is like. But to me, when I just see the quotes in text, it looks like almost regretful or like sad that he has these character flaws, or I don't know.
Well, it's been a while. It's not in the heat of the moment, right? So he's had time to reflect, which is the interesting part. He didn't, it would have been probably a lot different if they would have asked him the day after he finished playing online or whatever. But it's been a few months or whatever, and he's kind of come to grips with it. It seemed like that's the sort of tone that I got from it. This is the way it is, and I'm still going to kind of lead my life and go on, and maybe I'll start playing lower stakes, etc. But good on him for doing the interview. He didn't have to, certainly.
Yeah, no, that sounds more positive for sure.
Yeah, so if you want to check that out, like Terrence said, we will link it in the thread, and you can watch it yourself.
I don't know if you saw that Nosebleeds documentary.
I haven't seen the whole thing yet.
With
yeah.
Alex on Moon, but quite a few times in that documentary, they're chasing Gus. Yeah, they're calling. He's like a pretty solid bankroll booster. It's well.
He said that in the interview. He said there were a lot of I drove the games. I drove the So I don't want to spoil it all for people, but go check it out. Let's move on to 140 or less. We don't have a drop for that yet, do we?
Nope.
We need a 140 or less drop. One of the Terrence, you found one.
I'm going to interrupt you real quick because in case you missed it, Adam, 2 more spin and goes for $1 million got hit.
Oh right, yeah. Let's get to that.
One was literally as we were going off the air last week, and I don't know if Ross actually captured that, but I think we were just like wrapping up the show, and we're like,
yeah,
hey,
no, I got that's all in there.
You did?
Yeah, all that random stuff.
Oh, okay. We weren't sure if you cut it out.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's in there. So yeah, we were so surprised that it happened. But and one more since then, and there's a video of one of them, Adam, that you sent to me, which was the luck box. I don't remember his screen name, Tornado something or rather.
Yeah.
And this guy is just epic level luck box to win this $1 million. I feel so bad for the other two, and I don't feel bad for people who get bad beat at poker, because I've been around this game far too long to give a shit about anybody's bad beat stories. But
you're playing a hyper for a mill ball.
You're playing a hyper for a mill ball. You get it in with ace king against ace 10. No, that's no good.
Ace
you get it in
wins.
this guy. There's a hand in here, and I don't have the exact hand history, but there's this guy, there's an open on the button to 2BB. This Tornado 111 11 guy calls from the small. This other guy shoves for I think 12 BB. The original razor folds, and he just calls it back around, comes back around to him, and he calls it with the old Queen 7 suited.
He calls most of his stack with Queen 7 against Ace Jack.
Against Ace Jack, flop as a queen, turn as a 7 or something like that, and he's just like
the other guy's done.
The other guy's stunned. I think he had left with 3 BB and eventually bust. But he's stunned queen. He's Queen 7. What the fuck? What is this? And you're just wow. And then it's later on, this guy gets it in bad literally every time, and justice in poker being what it is, spikes the mill ball.
Yeah, that tilts me in a $30 spin and go. When we're playing for $60, I'm upset.
Yeah.
Never mind $1 million. The guy's calling off his whole stack to Queen 7 and just binks you. Oh.
What's amazing about this is, if you actually think about it, because there haven't been that many $1 million hands in the history of poker. I mean, there've been quite a few. I mean, if you look at the main event every year, those are $1 million, multi-million-dollar hands, and then you talk about big cash games and cap. But I don't know if anybody has made a call this bad for this amount of money.
Well,
right?
Relative to the buy-in.
Well, certainly relative to the buy-in, it's not even close, right? Well, spin and goes have that unique feature, but like if you're talking about this, it was I think it was for like 60% of the chips in play, and if you plug like Queen 7 suited, equity against whatever this guy 3-bet jams with, I'm sure it's not good.
It's not strong.
I would imagine it's like in the 30 or 35% ballpark or something like that. So like you're talking about a pot with equity of like $500,000-$600,000 in it. Like that's a gigantic mistake. But so that part of it was interesting. But another part of it that's interesting is that assuming this guy isn't a high limit player, and I'm going to assume that he's not, there's a guy out there right now who's up $1 million lifetime at poker or very close to it, who's awful. Which is
his graph is fantastic though.
Yeah. Like if you think about it, this, like, I mean, God, I hope he doesn't listen to the show, but I mean, Jesus, like,
we would like him as a guest.
It was god awful. I mean, I'm sure.
Yeah, like, it's like that Queen 7 is one of the worst big money calls in the history of poker, and I think that's fascinating.
It totally is. And the same guy, by the way. So you start off these things with 500 in chips.
Yeah,
they're 10, 20 blinds. The guy was down to, I want to say, 120 within 3 hands.
Oh, God.
And he came back and he won the middle. Like, usually when you get down to 120 and the other guys have, 700, 800, you're dead. I mean, you're not coming back for that.
Some crazy shit happens.
Crazy, yeah. And then he just comes back and wins the million.
But I feel I do legitimately, can you imagine... Like, honestly, like suppose you're the guy with the ace jack, Adam, and you're just like in your living room and you're playing for $1 million, and this guy calls with the old Queen 7 on you for like in this absurd spot and gets there on you. Like, are you kicking the dog? Like, are you smashing plates? Like, what's going on?
I'm not kicking my dog ever, but I am.
I know.
I'm certainly at the minimum putting my hand through some drywall. There's going to be a drywall guy there the next day. There's no question about that.
And maybe a hand surgeon.
And probably a smashed window of some sort. I'm getting the duct tape out to fix my window. Well, clearly, if I had a computer, well, obviously it's on a computer, so that thing is going through the window or something bad is happening.
You do get your 100K though.
You get 100K, it's a $900,000 difference.
It's true.
It's a $900K swing.
It's 100. It's 100K is great, but
it feels so much worse when it's a call the other guy's just no business making, right? Like if you just have aces against kings and the guy spikes a king, you're pissed for sure, no doubt you're pissed.
But you're not mad at the guy because he's supposed to call off. You just show up there
with a Queen 7. You're just like, what? What is this? What world do I live in?
And all the guy said was his chat, I think, was like, what? The WTF Queen 7 ? And then he goes, $100,000 is okay or something. And I was like, wow, you are centered, dude.
The zen on that guy. Speaking about meditation, that guy probably is pretty zenned out.
Yeah. I take that 100K and go tilt it and play Ben 86 heads up.
Just play a flip him for 100K. Yeah, no kidding.
Sit down 400.
Yeah, flipping would be better than Ross's proposal.
So I don't have any details on the second one, but that one got twice in a week. We hit the million. Sit and go, yeah. But we'll put the video up in the show thread as well if you want to check that out. Twice in a week. It's going till the end of January, so who knows? Maybe they'll hit another couple this week. But that segues us nicely into some PokerStars discussion. Big week. The start of TCOOP is upon us, starting today, January 22nd, running until the 1st of February. We have $15 million in guaranteed prize pools, including a $2 million main event, $700 buy-in. Terrence, 3 players are going for their final leg of online poker's Grand Slam. This is a thing now. The TCOOP, the Scoop, the Wacoop, and the Sunday Million title. Nobody has each one of those. There's 3 players. If they have some success this year and pull down a TCOOP, they're going to be the first winner of the Grand Slam. David Gunslinger 3, Bach. Paul G's 81, Paul Volpe, Andre Crocodile Zaichenko are all just a TCOOP away. Our boy.
Interesting that they're all named players, right? Like it's not like random screen name that nobody knows who this guy is. Those are all kind of well-known names in the poker world.
What do you have? You've got a scoop.
I've got a scoop and I've got a W coop. I do not have a Sunday Million, and I do not have a T coop.
You're missing the hard one, just like Sean Buchanan, James Obst, and McLeod, of course. They both need a Sunday Million title. They have all the other coop events. 39.
Well,
it's definitely
it'll be a while.
Sorry,
it'll be a while before we do the Million as a fixed limit hold'em tournament. I'm afraid, Terrence.
Especially now.
Yes, that is Brian Slick, tournament director extraordinaire from PokerStars, right in the middle of this TCOOP stuff. Let's bring him in. Big week this week, Brian. How excited are you?
Very much so. It's here we go again, right, guys? It's I don't know about my 20th or 25th series, something I don't know along the way.
Yeah.
And my family, say goodbye to the families. See you in about 10 days, and off we go.
I had a question while I was doing a bit of research for the interview, and I wanted to ask you something specifically about the TCOOP and how different it is from the WCOOP, the Scoop. This is obviously in the name, the Turbo Championship of Online Poker. Do you look at the demographics, the breakdowns of the entrants, the history that you have with TCOOP when you're looking at the schedule, trying to figure out what tournaments, when to schedule them, etc.? Is a different demographic than people that play in the WCOOP or the Scoop?
Not so much in terms of when to schedule them, but I think that TCOOP, more than the other two series, is interestingly more driven by the forum crowd than either of the other two series. I mean, it was interaction with that crowd that that's not where the idea came from, and we were going to do it regardless. We were going to do a January series. And, but the whole idea of TCOOP in terms of what type of tournaments and how often and whether we were going to go in Turbo or not and all that. As we were deciding to do a winter series, there was clearly a clamor for more Turbo on the forums at the time. And so we decided, why don't we do a Turbo series? It's the middle of winter. Let's do something fun. The very, very serious crowd, they had their thing in September, and then there's more super serious stuff coming up in May. And we'll have a bit of a break here, and it's still serious poker, because even though they're turbos, they're turbos with extraordinarily deep structures. But at the same time, turbo is, obviously it's less intense than like a WCOOP, where you could be playing for 7 hours and not cash.
Right. I guess I'm surprised. I thought the Turbo Championship Online Poker would attract more casual players that don't have, like you say, 2 days to play a main event. They want to get everything over in 3 or 4 hours.
Oh, absolutely. I'm quite certain that it does. I mean, we see that in the size of the events, especially because the events themselves are cheaper than in most of on everything except for Scoop Low, of course. And that was when we first designed the series. TCOOP actually used to be quite a bit cheaper than it is now. I want to say it was about 30 to 35% cheaper in its inception in 2012. And, we raised the buy-ins slowly. But sorry, I lost my train of thought there for a second.
No, that's fine. On a personal.
Yeah, we were talking about the casual players. Just the demographic of the player that signs up, and the other question I had was, when you're working the TCOOP into a Sunday lineup. Now, when you're doing a spring championship, a world championship online poker, you work the Sunday Million in, etc. But this is a turbo. So how hard is that to work the Sunday lineup into the schedule?
Well, this year, for the first time, we are just basically going around the Sunday lineup. We're not incorporating any of this. Well, we're incorporating the Sunday Supersonic because that's a hyper turbo, and so it just fits. So we have 2 TCOOP events, which basically replaces Sunday Supersonic. But for the first time this year, the Sunday warm-up, we're leaving it alone. The Sunday warm-up will play this Sunday as normal. It will not be replaced by a TCOOP event. The Million we've never touched, never replaced it with a TCOOP event, and we're not doing so this year either. So the TCOOP events on Sundays are just placed on top of the regular schedule. And fortunately, the Sundays are so busy on PokerStars that we can plop these turbo tournaments on top of the regular schedule and, just do fantastically well. So it's really, I'm really looking forward to, example, for on Superbowl Sunday, the Ultra Deep event that will start an hour before the warm-up. That was originally scheduled to be a warm-up replacement. And we got a lot of feedback about, people were tired of us doing that to the warm-up and making it a turbo. And, it wasn't, overwhelming feedback, but it was enough, and it got us talking. And we said, you know what, let's move this tournament an hour back, leave the warm-up alone. It's built itself to it's no longer, like a Sunday Million Junior. It stands on its own. Let's not make it a turbo. Let's leave it alone and just put the TCOOP event somewhere else.
Yeah, you guys, we're talking about the casual players. I consider myself in this category now, but certainly I'm the kind of guy who mentioned off the top, made fun of me for the Sunday Million thing, but I don't really play the Sunday Million because of what you said, Brian. Like, I'm not willing to play 7 hours and min cash or not cash at all, and it's just so hard to get to a final table where you would make some serious money. But I am willing to play a $200 TCOOP event, knowing that my time commitment is likely pretty small. If it's sizable at all, I'm in for a bigger chunk of money. For me, it's just a matter of trying to see if I can wake up at 6 a.m. to be able to play these things from Australia this week. But I hope I can. And the Super Bowl, as we've mentioned on the show a couple times, doesn't mean as much to me as it does to other people. I'm not a big football fan, so I will happily play on what for me will be like Monday morning while everybody else is watching Seattle and whoever the other team is.
Yeah, well, if you expend the energy to watch Super Bowl and play TCOOP, you may be feeling a little, deflated after spending that kind of energy. But
that was a long way to go.
You could probably come through with it. Okay.
How much time do you spend, working around the Super Bowl and the Sunday schedule? It's probably the only thing all year that you ever worry about going up against.
Oh my gosh, no. My fiance commented recently. She says, "Why on earth do you know so much about the sporting calendar around the world?" And it's specifically because of the major series. I have a calendar that has the Champions League and La Liga and the Mexican League and obviously the Super Bowl and the World Cup, and just basically anything that's going to get in excess of a few tens of thousands of people's eyes looking at it in a country where we have a lot of customers. We know about it, and we try to avoid scheduling stuff up against it. Now, we do actually have in our lessons learned for next year, let's not go up against the Super Bowl if we can avoid it. But at the same time, we're hoping that we went against Super Bowl last year. It didn't hurt us. We figure probably a lot of people, with the advent of, but with mobile gaining popularity, maybe a lot of people are watching the Super Bowl and playing. And, that may actually become less and less of a problem as mobile technology continues to get better. But rather not have people make the choice if they're making a choice, or just let them concentrate on a full day's worth of poker. But I can tell you, the Super Bowl is one we avoid, the World Cup, the Champions League. We generally try and avoid Mother's Day. We try and avoid big holidays like that. You'd be surprised. Mother's Day is one of the big ones where people generally don't play.
I was going to say exactly that, because I remember that from my own PokerStars days as well, and I was wondering, I was like, you're probably going to have a problem scheduling around Mother's Day, and not only that, putting people on mobile is absolutely not going to help in that circumstance, because if you're on your iPad while you're having Mother's Day brunch, you're a bad person. I'm just going to go ahead and say it.
Yeah, you're not you're not going to be well liked. Indeed. I want to ask you about the guarantees. I mentioned $15 million in guarantees off the top, Brian. And when you calculate these guarantees, we've had some discussions about how you go about doing that, but is it different for the TCOOP when you're going to have more recreational players, as you agreed that might be the case? Are they more unpredictable, these recreational players? I noticed, did you hit the guarantees in the first events? I noticed I think they were short a bit on one.
Event 1, we just barely missed. We needed 20,367 total entries. We came up 35 total entries short of that. So, I mean, we missed by $840 on a $500,000 guarantee.
That's pretty close.
You're fired. You're getting fired for that one.
But is it? Are they less predictable, the tournament ones, or harder to predict?
They're significantly. Yeah, they are more difficult to predict, and I don't know if it's hard to say if it's because it's recreational or because it's turbo or if it's because we tinker with the schedule more with TCOOP. But year on year, the pace tracking seems to be least reliable in TCOOP versus the other two series. We do have a rather elaborate spreadsheet that we've devised, which we compare the pace, how many players the tournament had, 6 hours out last year, and similar tournament, similar buy-in, and how many it's got this year, and you can do some complicated math and come out with, well, it's not that complicated, and come out with a projection. And I monitor that sort of stuff very, very closely. And it's just not as reliable for TCOOP as it is for some of the other series or indeed some of the other events. I mean, there are some events that you can plug that stuff in and come within, 0.1% when you're about an hour out.
Wow.
But for TCOOP, not so much. And it also seems to be, I don't know if it really is subject to some things that the higher buy-in or more infested is the wrong word, but that's just a forum term. More populated with regulars, tournaments are less subject to. I just don't know. Like one of the things that we were talking about today is Event 1 suffered a significant drop-off from last year. And the only thing different about it is that it has re-entries in it this year. And there's been some discussion if there's just a general misunderstanding about what re-entries are. And if recreational players perhaps think that they're required, that the $27 isn't $27, that they're going to be required to pay more. And so they look and see re-entry and then say, well, I'm not going to play.
Yeah.
When in reality, re-entry is completely irrelevant unless you bust. And if you bust, it's just a bonus opportunity. Hey, would you like to play some more? No? Okay, well, have a nice day. If you would like to play some more, put down another $27 and you can continue playing. But with that there in the title, it's got a discussion going of, do we have a gap in our poker education? Do we need to make it more clear, maybe make it say re-entries available or, some other way of putting it, because there was a 46% drop-off in participation between last year and this in a tournament that we did not make any other changes to.
Wow.
So Brian, I have a question about this, and I'm sure I'm overlooking something, and maybe you can educate me on this. But why wouldn't you just consider calling it a rebuy tournament? I mean, it's slightly different because in a rebuy tournament you end up on the same table. It's slightly different than reentry, but it's a term that's, I guess, more familiar. It's been around a lot longer, and maybe if it is an education issue, maybe that sort of avoids that whole idea by just calling it a rebuy tournament or something like that.
Well, I think the issue there is that the term rebuy, has a definite meaning that I think even a lot of casual players understand, and that, in rebuy, you're definitely getting more chips in your current seat. And somebody who can rebuy when you can't definitely has an advantage over you. I think in this case, if the problem is, and again, if it's a problem, there may just be an overall downturn. The recreationals might be out doing something else. We're one event into it. We don't know that this is the case, but it's anecdotal evidence right now. But rebuy definitely has a very definite connotation to it, and I don't think it would be appropriate to call a re-entry tournament a rebuy tournament because it's not.
Rebuy is available when you have less than one chip.
Yeah. Well, actually, that's one thing because we got to change that in tournament info window. My fiance is a big grammar person, and she's absolutely right on this. She was over my shoulder. She says, why does that say less than 1,000 chips? I'm like, what?
Fewer than 1,000
fewer
chips.
than 1,000 chips.
Absolutely. She's
Like,
right.
oh, she's absolutely right. We have to get that fixed.
Hey, Brian, are there any formats that don't really lend themselves when you're looking at filling out the schedule to turbos? 7-card stud, deuce to 7 single draw. Is there something out there that you kind of look at and go, maybe that shouldn't be a turbo event?
I find that we have in the past found some difficulty. Personally, I found difficulty writing a proper 8-game structure for satellites for turbos. We've got a pretty good one for now, but initially when we first started going, just getting the right satellite structure was difficult. I think that rebuy stud can be kind of weird if you if you're not accustomed to playing it. We do run it. To my surprise, it's actually quite popular. After TCOOP 2012, we started to get a request for cash rebuy stud, and I said, "Oh, okay." So we threw it out there, and it was actually popular for a while. It's since pretty much died out. But actually got some requests for no limit stud, which that's not a game I would ever want to play. But I can't imagine no limit with that many streets.
That would be you wouldn't.
That's why Mississippi stud was invented.
Yeah,
we need to get that in there.
Is Mississippi stud play no limit?
Yeah, well, generally, it's that sort of Mississippi stud was invented so that people could play no limit by kind of combining 4th and 5th Street together, I think they deal the river face up so that you don't have the unlimited nuts on the river problem.
Oh Lord! Now the one that I would love to see is Super Stud, which is a lot of fun. I would love to see that on PokerStars. Used to play it in a very easy cash game on the Isle of Man all the time, which was it's pot limit 7-card stud. High-low. You dealt 5 cards, and you chuck 2 of them, and everybody turns their door card up simultaneously, and then you play a pot limit high-low from there out. It's hugely fun, and when you're playing with a group of people who don't remember cards, well, it's possible.
Yeah, that would be a fun game for sure. I noticed a fair amount of full ring games. I don't know if it's just because I noticed it, or because there might be more in turbo events that you air more towards the 8-handed, 9-handed games.
It's actually interesting you mention that, because I think we've actually increased the number of 6-max tournaments this year over last.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken, I think we have 2 more 6-max this year than last. Don't hold me to that, but I believe that's the case.
5, I think there was 5 progressive super knockouts. Is that right? There's a lot of interest in these events.
I believe that's the case. Let me check real quick. I've got the client open, I think. Yes, there are 5 progressive super knockouts, including we threw it on the anti-up tournament this year, and that should be interesting. And one of the ones that I think is really interesting is that we put the progressive super knockout element on one of the 6-max shootouts.
Nice.
And I'm really looking forward to watching. I don't have time to watch all of these events because I'm busy working on getting things ready for the next events in the series. But I'm hoping to have time on the 28th to watch quite a bit of that, because I think the shootout format in general is fascinating. It's one of my favorites to play. Well, I don't really do well on them, but
it's the best form of poker. It's the best form of poker. Yeah.
Wasn't it Daniel who said it's the purest form of tournament poker because you have to be good in all phases to win?
Is that what he said?
I don't know who said it, but it's absolutely true. I mean, it's just one of these things. You start off 9-handed, and you have to finish heads up, and you got to play all the way through. It's the best. There's never any stalling. I mean, we all hate. We talked about this on the show last week about people stalling when it's close to the bubble and all the other nonsense that happens at pay jumps. You cannot stall your way into winning a shootout. Like it's literally the only form of poker where it's not an issue at all. You have to win all the chips on your table, and that's all there's to it.
So I'm curious what you think then, because if you're a shootout fan, we put the progressive super knockout element in, and the thinking was, when you're in those lower rounds there before we hit the money, we're giving people an incentive while you're in those lower rounds to still really go after the other players rather than just trying to survive the heads up and then, okay, let me see if I can advance. I think it's going to add an exciting element to the lower rounds. And I mean, of course, you'll have that element in the later stages. But I think in the early part of the tournament, it'll really add a bit of excitement that wasn't there before. What do you think of that, Terrence?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always a fan of wrinkles and other things like this. I mean, I think there's always an incentive in a shootout to get people knocked out. But you're right, some people do wait around to get knocked out, especially if they're heads up or three-handed specialists. They might play tight earlier on. But I think that's part of the strategy as well. So not saying that idea isn't a good one. What the shootout idea I've always liked to see implemented that I've never seen anybody do, and I'm curious in your thoughts on this, is to have a sort of a pure shootout. So whether it's a double shootout or a triple shootout, but basically have second through ninth or sixth or whatever number of people at the table, they would all make the same. So it would be a flatter structure it would be a completely flat structure from second to nth at the final table. First would be a much bigger one, because I've always thought that it's somewhat inconsistent that you don't get anything for second on your first table, but you do get extra for second at the final table. And I understand it's because of the pay jumps. But what you could do is pay out more people, like pay out a little bit more to the winner of the first table, the winner of the second table, if you have a second table, pay out a little bit less to first so you don't have a gigantic bubble at the end. But the people who finish second through ninth all would make more. Basically, the guys who finish second and third would make less, but the guys who finish seventh and eighth and ninth would make a bit more. So I've always thought that that's something that somebody should try in the shootout format, kind of make it a pure shootout.
I think that's a fascinating idea.
I'll send you a spreadsheet.
And actually, I can tell you this much: if you send me a spreadsheet of that, I could see throwing that out as a trial balloon.
Cool.
We run trials all the time. I could see throwing that up there just to see what people think of it. I mean, cash shootouts on the schedule are quite rare, but I could see throwing that up as a trial balloon and seeing what people think of it.
It's going to call it a Chan shootout.
Oh,
yeah. We do stuff like that periodically. Some stuff that's actually on the schedule came about from conversations. Action Hour was from an MSN chat with Daniel like 3 or 4 years ago. We were just talking about rebuys and goofy and stuff you could do with them. And just try it and throw it out there. And Action Hour was born from that. And it's been in a couple of coops since then. There's some other stuff. I think Ante Up was from an office chat. A bunch of stuff like that. Anyway.
Brian.
But yeah, send me that. I'll be glad to take a look at it. And if
cool.
if it'll work, yeah.
I want to ask you one last thing, and I'm guessing that you've been asked this before, and apologize in advance if you're getting tired of answering it. But the other thing I thought about when we were talking about the TCOOP was, given the massive success of the scoop format, because of the 3 buy-in levels. See, I know you already know what's coming, but obviously the World Championship of Online Poker is distinct from the scoop. It's not like you could, seamlessly move over and incorporate that in the World Championship of Online Poker and still keep it totally different. But when we're talking about turbos, it's a different format already. I was thinking maybe that this might be the logical place, given that like you said, it's more of a fun series, and you could incorporate a 3 buy-in level here a little bit easier than you might try it with on the World Championship of Online Poker.
The scoop format, it's not that it doesn't fit in WCOOP, it's that it's unique, and it will remain exclusive to scoop.
That's the way it is. Okay, well, interesting. I guess that's why
there are other reasons why it just wouldn't work in TCOOP. I mean, I could go into them, but I'll go into one of them very briefly. Okay, if you had the buy-ins where they are right now, okay, let's look at the events that ran today. Okay, let's say that the events that ran today were the lows. Okay.
Yeah.
So you'd have 27, 215, 2100. 55, 530, 5200. Oh, honestly, TCOOP 3 would have been the medium. So 27, 215, 2100, and then 55. A couple of things there. One, thing that we always try to remember: the players' bankrolls are not infinite. And then that's not meant to sound snarky at all. It is genuinely a principle that we make sure that we remember.
But those buy-ins couldn't be mediums? I guess you couldn't have $2.70.
Yeah, 27 really couldn't be a medium buy-in.
Yeah, right. I understand.
And the other thing about it is having a really expensive series on the backside of PCA.
Right.
And on the backside of the Aussie Millions, as people are gearing up for EPT and the grand final, and the meat of the EPT schedule, it just, I think it's a very bad idea, honestly. But even putting all that to the side, like I said, the scoop format. Listen, I'm really gratified that people love the scoop format the way that it is. It's something that came to me in a flash in a hallway in 2009 or 2008. I mean, I love it. I love that people are constantly asking for it to be used elsewhere. Makes me feel really good.
Yeah,
it's gonna stay where it is in scoop for the foreseeable future.
The TCOOP Player of the Year contest is also running. The first place, the Champions Trophy, and a Scoop High main event ticket worth $10,300. There's also prizes for second through 100th. 100th place is going to get a Scoop Low main event ticket worth $109. So lots to play for.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Yeah, no, go ahead.
We expanded that this year by 50 places. I think we were paying 50 places last year. We just decided to pay it out a bit further, and like I said, to point the prizes at Scoop, just to get people pointed directly into the next big thing. So just keep the excitement going into the next series.
It's not far away, indeed. Thanks so much, Brian. Really appreciate your time tonight.
Absolutely. I had a great time discussion with you guys. Thanks for the time.
T, I think you're going to make a lot of money with that new format, the Chan Shootout.
Yeah, do I get residual royalties? I don't really know how the PokerStars model works. I assume if you come up with an idea and they use it, they pay you lots of money, right? That's how that works?
I hope so. I need to get at least like 0.5% for being on the other line. Something here. We've got a lot of stuff to get to. We've got some 140 or less. We've got a mailbag, a little bit of mailbag. We've got some bump, whole bunch of stuff. This is a pretty big show. We're trying to keep.
We're giving you bonus material this week, folks.
Yeah,
we're giving you bonus material.
We're trying to shave it down from 3 hours, but it doesn't seem to be working out too well.
Nobody wants that.
I'm not so sure about that, but all right. 140 or less. Terrence, you had a full tilt one that you found?
Well, it was sort of this wasn't, it was a kind of a news story. Full Tilt accidentally, their Play Money app on the phone, I don't remember, I think it was iOS, or I don't remember if it was iOS or Android, but it accidentally included a message saying that the New Jersey Real Money download was available. That picked up a storm. The person kind of showed a screenshot of that happening. So I noticed at Eric Holreiser, who's of course the head of communications for Amaya, had the tweet that we're looking into the errant message re the New Jersey license. It is an error and we are investigating. They would eventually come out with a full statement that said, they're continuing. Everybody got really excited about this. Obviously, they're like, oh my God, Full Tilt's coming to New Jersey. This is crazy. Like we didn't think this would happen yet. And of course, Maya kind of looked a little bit silly by having that little bug in the software, or Easter egg, or however you want to put it. But they say that they have not been granted a license, of course, to do Real Money and Gaming New Jersey at this time, and they sent out apologies. But hey, they had to do a little bit of damage control this week on that 140.
I have a quick question. When they say bringing Full Tilt to New Jersey, does that include all the players worldwide, or would it just be the Full Tilt software with the players in New Jersey?
That would be the Full Tilt software. It would be basically the Full Tilt software. Would be granted a license to work in New Jersey. The way that New Jersey works is you have to partner with a brick and mortar casino, so they would still have to do that.
So it's just the same player pool.
You would only be able to play against other Full Tilt players in New Jersey.
Right.
So it would be like any other New Jersey site. You'd have to download the software, register on the New Jersey account.
Right.
Yeah, even if you already had a Full Tilt account elsewhere.
Well, at least that's good news. Maybe they're getting ready and they know something. Who knows?
Sounds like they're getting ready. Because if you've got that message, it means even if it means you're not ready, it means your programming team is on the ball and they're ahead of things that they're ahead of schedule. But
and we talked
still
about
a pretty big oopsie.
We talked. Yeah, it is a big oopsie. But we talked about the Ray Lesniak tweet last week where he was talking about March, and that's not far away. So hopefully that happens for the people of New Jersey. 140 or less, Jimmy Fricky. I don't know how much I'm up or down, but playing the limit bot has made me such a better poker player. It's crazy. Worth every penny. T, what do you think of that? How much do you think it can improve your game to play that thing?
Well, I mean, that's sort of an interesting timing of this tweet because you could just go play Cepheus online. I don't understand why you wouldn't do that.
Right.
You could do that for free.
Well,
so yeah. I mean, unless you shouldn't be playing the limit bot. And of course, I assume he's talking about the limit bot that's in a few Las Vegas casinos, including the Aria where you play heads up limit hold'em. I don't know why you would do that if you don't think you can beat the game or if you're getting comps, but they usually don't provide comps on that particular machine. I've checked. But yeah, Gobbo's a smart guy, but I would think you should probably just play Cepheus if you really wanted to get better at limit hold'em.
Or I guess, yeah, you could probably play pretty small in that limit bot, right? I'm guessing you could play real small.
Yeah, I think you can play like 25 cent, 50 cent or something like that. But
money's money, right?
Free, yeah. And you don't have to play in a casino either.
Right. 140 or less. Terrence Chan. I like that the dealers call out lost one instead of seat open here. Makes me feel like somebody fell out of a boat. I'm now one of the lost. Good event, though. 9-handed, shuffle machine, great structure, 10-minute breaks. Thumbs up all around. Had a good experience?
Yeah, you cheated there. That was 2 tweets. So technically probably over 140. But I thought it was really funny because all you hear is you bust somebody and they say, lost one. And they're kind of like, well, no, he's right there. He just doesn't have any chips
anymore. He didn't die.
Yeah,
he didn't go missing.
He just doesn't have chips. That's the only thing that happened. He didn't. Yeah.
Right.
No, I think it's great. Aussie Millions is great. They've got shuffle machines on every table except when they have like huge fields and then they have to turn them off because I think some of the tables don't have shuffle machines. They max at every table is 9-handed. I hate when they cram 10 and I don't know of a single poker player who likes when they cram 10 players at a table, but I particularly hate it. The structure is good. The structure is fast for the small buy-in tournaments. 10-minute breaks. I hate 15 or 20-minute breaks. I mean, I don't hate them, but I mean, I just think it's unnecessary. Nobody takes 20 minutes to pee.
Unless you're at the World Series.
Yeah, unless it's like the World Series or and it's like the ladies' event is that day or something like that. Like there's situations where it happens, but it's just unnecessary. I like it when they skip the dinner breaks. Scott mentioned that off the top. I just think that these are all real small player friendly things. And then I played the shootout, which, as I mentioned in the segment with Brian.
How did that go? How did that the shootout and also the shot clock one? Give us the take.
Sure. So for me personally, I bubbled it. I got heads up and I lost. So that sucked and that was tilting. But yeah, it was a shot clock tournament in a shootout tournament. So both of these things I love because the way the shot clock worked, and I had questions about how logistically it would work. 20-second shot clock, which is really quite fast. And what happens is that the dealer actually has a timer, but doesn't start using the timer until she or he feels that it's been about 10 seconds in her head. So it's not exact. Doesn't have to be, really. The whole point is to kind of keep the game moving. It does a fantastic job. There's never any of this fake tanking or unnecessary tanking, and I hate all that stuff about poker. It's a shootout. As we mentioned before, shootouts don't stall, but they also get shorthanded. We got so many hands per hour, and it's honestly the first time in a long time that I had tons of fun playing live poker, that I truly enjoyed my experience of playing live poker, because all of the things that bothered me about live poker, they weren't an issue. No stalling, no fake tanking, no none of this I need to look exactly the same way and pause exactly 5 seconds before I make my action nonsense that people do. It's a shootout. Players get eliminated. It was a re-entry shootout, which I've never played before, but that seemed okay anyway. You still have to beat 9 guys. I loved it. Think it's the best thing. If I'm going to make like a bold prediction, I would say that the majority of small buy-in tournaments will be shot clock, play clock tournaments going forward. I would really love to see that. I think it would make poker so much more fun. for the recreational player and ultimately for the professional players, because honestly, I think it's the professional players that are slowing the game down way more than the casual players right now. That's my experience in the the 4 to 5 digit buy-in tournaments. They're the ones slowing the games down, but they're largely doing it because they're afraid of giving away information. So if everybody is on the same level playing field, I think that's a really big advancement for poker.
Did you get any situations or see any situations where it was a really tough spot and a guy was like agonizing because he didn't have enough time or anything like that?
All the time. Yeah, we had that probably, especially in the beginning, probably 5 or 6 times an hour that somebody would get down to the dealer saying 5, 4, 3, and then the guy just slides his chips in or he lets it time out and fold. Happened all the time. There was one guy at the table mentioned, boy, I'm not really good at this. I'm usually somebody who takes more time, but kept people on toes. But I think overall people enjoyed it more. I think the idea, I think a lot of people thought that 20 was too short. Personally, I think it's great. Most of the time, I know what I'm doing within the first 3 or 4 seconds of my decision anyway. It was only on the hand that I busted personally that I ever felt under pressure. But I think that pressure is good. I mean, I think you should feel a little bit of pressure. Poker's a game about pressure. It's about making the right decision under stress. It's about financial pressure sometimes, right? Like, oh my God, this is $100,000 decision. I'm going to freak out. Oh my God, we're so close to the money. People make bad decisions and under pressure, and that's part of the game. The ability to make good decisions under stress is to me what makes poker a lot of fun.
All right, now you got to cash in one of these things. Might as well wait for the main event.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've been saving up all my run bad, or accumulating all my run bad to save up for my run good. Still a main event left to go and a few prelims on the side that hopefully I won't have to play. But I don't typically run all that well at the Aussie Millions, but maybe I blame it on the fact that Melbourne is such a fun place that I get to do so many other things.
We want to do a segment of Bump, and just a quick one. We haven't done Bump for a while. It's a segment where we talk about threads at 2+2, but this week there was one that's pretty funny. It's in the sporting events section, and it's of course apropos of the hand egg that happened this weekend. It's called, the thread is titled Patriots Cheating Thread. This episode, Benghazi, which I got a huge kick out of because this Benghazi thing is never ending. But so check that out. There's a lot of discussion about some of the things that the Patriots have done over the past. Belichick seems to enjoy this kind of thing. We have we got a letter we got an email this week, Terrence.
A letter?
Should we get letters? Yeah, let's give an address so we get actual letters. That would be great. We got an email.
Some mail bombs is more likely. Some anthrax in the studio.
Right. Tommy writes, good afternoon, guys. The past few episodes you've been asking for emails, and I actually think I have kind of an interesting question for you guys. As a recent college graduate, I am at that point in time where I'm trying to figure out a career path for the rest of my life. I went to school and got a degree in broadcast communications with the intention of getting a career in sports media. That dream has become less appealing to me over time, and I'm second guessing if that's what I really want to do. Poker is a game that has become more important, exciting to me over the past 2 years, but I just don't have the bankroll to give it a go to play for a living. Since you guys at the Pokercast seem to have integrated both playing and media into your lives, I was wondering if there's any advice or guidance that you could give me to a person who may be considering starting a career similar to what you have done. Hopefully this is a question or a topic that others would want to hear about, and you'll consider talking about it on the show. Now, a couple of things. First of all, I don't think either of us started out with the aim of doing this, or certainly for this length of time. T, what kind of advice do you have?
So my initial thought, my advice would be write this letter 6 months ago when MJ was hosting the show. Because if you want to talk about people with broadcast communications backgrounds who wanted to do sports media, I think you kind of missed the boat on that one, and you just ended up with poker players who got bored.
Well, I went to broadcast communications.
You did, yeah.
So.
Oh, okay, it's true. But you're also a recent graduate in much the same boat as our friend Tommy here. So, but no, I mean, Ross brings up a really good point. Obviously, there are jobs out there in the poker media. if it is an area that interests you, it's always to me is I'm not that old. I'm 34, but I always tell younger people, whether they've graduated, whether they haven't graduated from school, is you always have to follow your passion, because if you do that, you're just going to get really good at one thing. You're going to get good at that thing. You're going to know everything there is to know about that thing, and someone somewhere out there is going to pay you for that, right? Like when I was 18, 19 years old, I was really passionate about poker. And so I spent all my time on RGP and on the poker forums, learning more about poker, obsessing, not just about the strategy, but about the culture and everything to do with poker. And I was absorbed. And it landed me a job at Pokerstars back long before Pokerstars was a thing. I mean, it was literally a 6-person, startup company. And that was, and that worked out quite well for me. And I always think that there's always somebody out there who demands your skills. So if you're not super excited about what you went to school for, then don't do it. You have skills. I mean, most of the time these days, like, a degree is far from a guarantee that you get your foot in the door in anything. And I think most people are starting to recognize that. It used to be back in the day, 40, 50 years ago, that if you had a degree in X, you were going to get a job in X. That's not the case anymore. It's a much tougher world. So always follow your passion. And to be a bit more specific about that, I guess. So in terms of integrating media and poker and all these things together, I think it would probably be a good idea to get some sense of the industry side of things. We've mentioned guys like Chris Grove on this show a lot of time. Previous host that you've had on the show, Marco Valerio. A lot of these guys are people who are valuable because they've studied the industry side of things, and so people want to know their opinions when there's news come out. They're the first to break news. Remco, another guy. People, you have to know a little bit more than like, Sammy Farha is the guy who has a cigarette, and there's a little bit more. You have to have a little bit more substance to it if you want to be in the poker media world.
Or you can just be a really hot chick at the World Series.
That will work.
Yeah. So if it were Tommy. I don't know what. I'm assuming he's a guy. I don't know what his aesthetic. If he could be a double for Patrick Antonius, then maybe he's drawing live at that kind of thing. But you got to know about a lot. Just be a little bit obsessive, and it's always the people who are obsessive who are best at their work, in my opinion. I don't know. That seems like a really long answer for what he said.
No, I'm sure that'll help him. My advice would be to not even consider playing poker for a living or trying to do that. I think that's really, really difficult this day and age. I don't think that's a good use of there's
or at least play casually, right? Like you can put in your 10-15 hours a week, and if you're just smashing, like you're the greatest thing since 2007 then okay, then go for it. But
well, I mean, that's almost for sure not the case. And what I guess my thing is poker is great as something on the side. It's really, really difficult and really, really not a lot of fun for most people, I think. At least my experience with if you're trying to do it as your main source of income full time. It's not. It's just not that. It's not. People run into fulfillment issues. Is this really like a great thing to spend the rest of my life doing? I mean, even the best players in the world struggle with that. That are still playing. So I would consider, or I would counsel you to do something else that you really, really enjoy, and if you love poker, to do it kind of on the side. But
did he mention where he was from?
I don't think so. No, at least not in the part that I cut and pasted into the notes here. He might. Well,
this gives me a chance to plug the Sunday live stream I've been doing.
Oh yeah.
If he wants to come join the live stream, I'd be glad to.
You live streamed the Pokercast Invitational last week. How did it go?
Oh, it was fun. We got a few more people. I think we're growing in popularity.
5, 6,
like 10?
10
at a time.
10's a good number. Nothing wrong with 10.
Yeah, my main man Poker Germs was back, and a few people from Toronto, and
perfect.
Yeah, it was fun.
Awesome. So
did you beat some Ruskies?
No, I busted out. I ran incredibly bad in the Invitational this week. I lost. Yeah, well,
No, we don't want dollar tournament bad stars. Spare us those.
But the people watching were like, "Wow, you just can't win."
But check that out. If you want to watch Ross on the 2+2 stream, we will also post the link to the 2+2 Twitch stream in the show notes. And I want to ask people a favor, to people out there listening to the show. We get our metrics for the show from Apple, and they're terrible. They don't break down where people are from, how long they listen to the show. For whatever reason, the metrics that we get from Apple are awful. And what I would really love for people to do, and this is going to help us with advertisers and keep Terrence and I and Ross interested in, continuing that people are actually out there listening. We're doing this show, here in a studio once a week. We don't really interact in real life with people who do listen to the show. So do me a favor, come to the forum this week. And if you've never come to the 2+2 forum, please sign up an account. If you have an account, come to the show thread in the Pokercast forum. And what all I want you to do is type the city and country that you live in. You don't have to say, anything else. Just type in, wherever you happen to be listening.
So you're going to start a unique thread. It's not going to be this week's show. You're going to start.
It's going to be the show thread.
This week's show thread. So it would be episode. What are we at? 349.
349. Yeah. Okay. One away from 350.
All right. So 349 is going to be full of cities and countries that we're going to mispronounce.
Do you think it should be a separate thread? Is that a better idea?
I kind of think so.
I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're right. That way it'll stay on the front page and people can continue. Let's do that.
It's the ASL thread. Do you remember ASL, Adam?
Age, sex, what's L?
Location. So that's
age,
what
sex,
people would
location.
type in the chat. When the internet was like a new thing, teenagers like me would go into chat rooms and would say ASL and give their age, sex, and location.
So you'd lie about the fact that most of the guys would lie about the fact that they're guys and say they're girls.
They're all 19-year-old females from California.
Okay, so we're going to have that thread up in the forum. Please come and post where you're from. I just want to have some sort of thing that we can point to people to say, hey, look, people listen to our show from this country, or wherever they're from. Do us that favor. We'd love to hear from you. Please head over to the Pokercast forum.
And if you work for Apple, get your shit together.
Yes, or maybe it's we don't have our shit together getting the metrics. I'm not 100% sure. But I also want to give a quick shout out to, while we're still in the mailbag area, to Nathaniel Parente, who sent an email in December asking us to talk about local smaller card clubs. Not really something we can do in this format, but I really appreciate the email and that you took time to tell us the story. And I did certainly read your email. Please send your emails into Pokercast at 2plus2.com so we can read them on the air. That'll be a lot of fun. Do we have much left, T? I think we're coming near the end of the program, right? I don't think we have a ton of stuff left. Favorite things?
My balls are pretty deflated. So.
Your balls are still somewhat okay, so my favorite thing of the week. Let's do favorite things. Mine is I don't think I've given my favorite thing. This is the word lens. Have I said this one, Terrence? Where the word
I don't think so.
The word lens
I don't
app.
know what the word lens is.
Okay, word lens app is the most amazing app. It's a game changer, this thing. And I don't say that lightly. It's the translation app that works with your phone. So if you're in a different country and you hold your phone viewer up to a stop sign that says stop in French, it automatically puts the English word over the French word in the stop sign in your phone viewer. So if you hold it up to a sign and there's all kinds of French language, it immediately, in real time, in your viewer, translates it to English or whatever language you're doing. It's unbelievable. I mean,
that is fantastic. I love technology. That's wonderful. Does it work for Australian English to English?
Yes, it does.
I've gotten confused as fuck this week a lot of times. I mean, I need a live version of that too when people are talking.
Indeed.
There's actually a video out there of this Australian guy who goes around the world asking people to say, "G'day, mate, how you going?" And like people around the world, like they'll ask like old black ladies in Alabama and like good old boy rednecks in Montana and like people in Germany, and it's pretty hilarious to see people try to do Australian accents. They most of the time don't even know what he's saying.
Yeah, exactly.
I won't even give a favorite thing this week. I think your thing is cool enough. I don't want to spoil yours.
Don't take it away from
badass.
Yeah,
that's pretty badass, and I'm going to download that right now.
Favorite thing, Ross?
Yeah. I spent some time watching some Vice talks that I haven't seen lately, and I've watched. I probably watched about 20 of them in the last few days, just the shorter ones. And my favorite one was Warlords of Tripoli,
Oh my god!
And it was
sounds awesome.
Pretty fucking intense. It was Tripoli's like a city in Lebanon,
Libya,
and there's some turmoil going on there. It's got some pretty brutal live footage of they're just like hanging out in this like militia. People are firing guns at each other, and it's like seems super casual because they do it every day, and it was pretty astonishing.
Yeah,
I had a nightmare about it actually.
Really?
Yeah.
I actually the one of the hardest ones ever to watch was the Liberia one.
Liberia, yeah.
That was brutal.
Ooh, yeah, that's a lot of violence.
Yeah. My cousin was the executive producer of that.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool. Yeah, the Vice.com obviously is a fantastic website. I think they're on HBO now too. I think they run a lot of their stuff on HBO.
Those HBO shows are awesome.
Yeah, if you haven't ever checked out Vice, definitely go head on over there. The other one that I love is the multi-part North Korea episode where they go to North Korea and they get toured
everything
around.
North Korea documentary is awesome because I think if you have the ability to get into North Korea, you don't waste it.
Yeah,
no,
they've been there twice actually. They did it with Dennis Rodman in the HBO.
Oh, I didn't see that one.
Yeah, they did it. They went the first time and then they went back with Dennis Rodman and he's hanging out with Kim Jong-un.
Oh my God.
They're playing basketball against the Harlem Globetrotters.
Yeah. Nice. The Washington Generals made the trip too, probably.
Yeah, you let them win, I think, is the rule if you're playing basketball with Kim Jong-un.
Imagine if Kim was playing in center for the Generals.
It is like Rodman just dunks all over him and gets executed.
Yeah. That would be great.
I think they're friends. I think Kim Jong-un, he's a big fan of Rodman.
They're bros.
Probably because he lets him win a basketball.
That's right. We should get the invitational. Let's get the password out. This is obviously the TCOOP time of year, so let's use the password TCOOP, TCOOP, and we need a format. T, what do you got for format?
It's got to be a turbo, right? Like that.
Yeah.
I feel like it naturally has to be a turbo. We went four-handed no limit hold'em last week. Should we stick with the no limit hold'em or should we switch it up?
I think we should switch it up.
Okay, so let's do some six-handed PLO.
Yeah. Six-handed PLO is great.
I think that'll make people
my
pretty happy.
stream.
And in the turbo format, and Ross will do a great job with the stream because it's his favorite game.
Yeah,
let's do it.
Get more people on that stream. You guys got to come hang out.
Come check it out.
It's fun.
Twitch.com/2+2 is it?
What? 2+2 _poker or something like that.
Okay.
Come look in the show thread.
Come in the show thread. We've
post
got a
where
link
you're
to
from. Click on the Twitch stream.
A lot of stuff.
Do all that stuff.
All right, thanks to everybody who made it out for the show this week. Ross at the 1s and 2s, Terrence down under, and thanks to Neil Channing from England, who was nice enough to stay up so late, and of course Brian Slick at Pokerstars, who gave us the TCOOP rundown. We'll be back next week with another show. It'll be show 350, yeah, about 350 next week. Thanks to you for listening, though, and we hope to talk to you in the forums, and you'll hear us next week on the Pokercast. How do I intro this usually?
Thanks for joining us. The 2+2 Pokercast has been presented to you by the Pokerstars VIP